You made it out of the canyon?
Yeah, I went over a guardsman.
You went over what?
Guardsman Pass.
Like all the way through Ogden?
No, it's like a middle mountain. It's in between coming around Provo, and I came out on like 6,200. I went up like past Deer Valley, and
I guess I didn't know you could go that way.
neither did I until the.
Probably can only do that in the summer. I doubt you can do that in the winter.
I'm for sure it's only summer. What's up, Troy? What's up, Risto? That's like 3 Thursdays in a row, or one of those Thursdays get missed. Like every single time somebody wrecks in that stupid canyon, and it's 2-hour walk up. But what you can do?
It was the damn illegals.
Well, usually is, yeah. I mean,
no, it literally is.
You go drive down past it every single time. It's like 15 guys in green shirts standing out by their cars, and they're 3 different things.
I feel like I have that reaction a lot anytime somebody sort of to make fun of the whole illegal immigration argument does the "It took their dibs." I'm always like, well, yeah, they did.
I'll toss them a bone. Even I have a hunch that one of the reasons it's usually them is because they're the ones who will get in trouble if they're late, and almost everybody else up there has a job that everybody's like, whatever, get here. If the canyon's screwed, the canyon's screwed. So they're zipping in and out of the traffic like crazy to get up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways I can't wait for the robots to take over driving. Because I-80, point of the mountain, like half of days there's a wreck, and in both cases it's like there's no junction, there's no merge, there's no intersection, there's no lights, and it's just a big curve. And for some reason everybody I know the reason. It's mostly tailgating and speeding.
It's terrible. Stop me if I brought up here before, but like everybody's seen the Saturday Night Live, one of the only funny ones in the past 10 years. Although there was a bunch of funny when Hader was on there, and who was the other guy? The Californians, the dude from Portlandia. But they do that skit, the Californians, and the whole entire skit it looked like a soap opera setup. But every single time somebody walked in the room, they get caught up in about 15 minutes of discussion of how they drove there. Like, I took the 5 and I went to the Y and then went down under, I don't know Los Angeles at all. He's like, no way, you should have gone up to the I and gone on PCH and gotten over by, and that's what they do. I feel like Utah is becoming the Californians because everywhere we go, and I especially noticed it with that joking thing because I used to listen to podcasts and they all used to be based in Los Angeles, and I used to listen to every one of them, and I started noticing that every single comedian's podcast started out with, how'd you get here? Well, I came down the 5, went to the, and it's just, I don't know anything about California, but I listen to them talk about driving there every single time. Utah's becoming that, but I guess the whole Western world is.
That's like watching a new Jerry Seinfeld special. It's like, when you're walking down Broadway and you cross through 4th Street, there's no bodegas. There should be some bodegas there. Like, look, not a lot of people get this. I mean, I understand if that's your niche.
One of my favorite encounters with real life stereotypes is that because I grew up in Salt Lake City, and there's not a lot of Jews, and the Jews that we have aren't real Jewy. They're Salt Lake Jews, so okay, that's whatever. But way back when I briefly worked for the Shithead Emporium, the residential treatment center for rich teenagers, there was one day that it was like parents visiting day, and one of the kids was like a Jewish kid from New Jersey, and his mom and dad came in, and we were talking to them all, meeting them all, being nice and all that stuff. And so I'm talking to the dad, and he even looks kind of like George Costanza, and the conversation literally was like, hi, is this your, I'm Flip, whoever. Is this your first time in Utah? And he launches into a 5-minute story about how he got a screaming deal on his hotel and that he talked the guy into upgrading him into the speaker. I was like, wow, it's just like on TV.
I was just watching this thing on, I can't remember what town it was in, but it was a bunch of like a Hasidic Jewish community that basically took over a school board because they wouldn't let them have the zoning that they wanted or some shit like that. And the people are reporting about like they took it over by getting just thousands of extra people to vote, and they were all like Hasidic Jews. They reported seeing like a dude in a trench coat and a dumb hat being like, we're gonna need 2,000 more voters, and they come in, and then they get up there, and the people are really pissed about what they've done with the school district, and the guy's like, I, for one, will not stand for any anti-Semitism. I'm like, you need to be wedgied. There's like, when I see the most stereotypically Jewy person I've ever seen, I'm like, you could be saying something I like. I want to wedgie you. Like, stop being so fucking nerdy.
Yeah, and if he says that when you just get card and stand next to him, and it's just how you treat the Mormons.
Oh,
it's exactly the same. Go ahead.
I would listen to that thing. I think it was a couple weeks ago. But the Daily Wire thing. I mean, I already commented on it, but good Lord, Cardin is such a jackass. Where he's like, "Oh, they hate us." Like, no, like they disagree with some of the metaphysical claims of your religion, which is what you do on your show to every other religion ever.
I know.
And
well,
they came back softer the next day on that one.
Well, did he renew?
Yeah, they did. They did. They came back and said, "Oh, they've done good and they've got good and stuff and all that sort of stuff." And yeah, they had a makeup episode.
That was just I don't know. The whole thing was dumb because they're like, they don't think. I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, it would annoy me when people would say that Mormons aren't real Christians because it was more like perplexing than anything. Because I'd be like, why? We believe that Jesus died for our sins. Isn't that what makes you a Christian or whatever? So I guess I defined Christianity more loosely than they did. But eventually, like my reaction to, we don't think you're real Christians. Like, oh, well, I do. And then that's it.
Here's Charles. Evening, fellas. Just took my first edible. Time to watch 3 ex-Mormons talk me into going back to church.
Hey, I don't know, man. I'm going to be shitting on the Mormons a lot today.
Everybody's getting the game.
They pissed me off way more than the Exmos did this week.
Well, you weren't just listening to the Lynn today?
I was.
That set me off, man. I see you guys are both like stuck on the lazy learner thing, and we had the Conocer and Saber thing, so we can start with that to get into it. But I was kind of somewhat feeling the same, and then I listened to that one, and it drove me nuts. But then on top of it too, there was the Friday night Mormonism thing last week. But I'm gonna say right now that I think it's a 50-50. We'll have a vote by the end. Who was more annoying this week, the Mormons or the ex-Mormons? Because it's starting out neck and neck in my book.
It's pretty tough because I didn't get to finish the Delin thing, but I watched a few hours of it, and it was pretty insufferable.
Well, what's kind of insufferable about the Delin thing too is the Mormons in it as well, though. I mean, it's not.
we gave Forrest a chub.
It looks like you guys both went to the lazy learner thing, so that looks like it's a point at the word radio stuff. I went super nooch, which was John Delin. So I've been outvoted. It's 2 people poking at the wards and me poking at the super neutral.
Hey man, I will poke at Delin too. Well, honestly, Delin was...
Well, that one, it just barely came out.
Delin was the least... I know, but Delin was like almost the least shitty on that. He was the least annoying to me on that whole panel.
Well, I mean, it might be worth going over. I mean, part of the frustration is like I'm listening to it as I'm driving around in these damn canyons. I don't have time to write anything down. I kind of forget half of it. It'd be better like take a minute and write everything down. But what they really need is somebody... They're the ones talking about people being in echo chambers. What they really need is just somebody in that 4 hours who has any perspective whatsoever outside of their neoliberal little bubble. And they just don't even like. I thought they were getting like a little bit of self-awareness last week, but no, they're just right back to, well, the way to the future is what we've already landed on, and just what we need to do is make the Mormon Church become us. And if we do that, I guess the world will be solved.
I did hear Delin at one point seem to push back against that a little bit by telling somebody that, like, I don't know, a lot of these congregations will progressivize in the way we want them to, and they'll just lose members.
Yeah, I noticed he did like say that. And he's obviously heard that from Steve. But I don't know, it's just some of the same stuff. It's like you think they're one step forward. Like, once again, getting upset at like how non-academic these Mormons are. Like you don't even know, like if you took this to academia, they would laugh this stuff about making up words out of the room. I'm like, come on, like, come on. Like, you guys don't know the water you're swimming in. But let's start your direction, because I too, I will admit that Ward Radio pulled off some annoyances this week.
Well, I was just looking at, because I was looking at the replies to Jared's comment on that Ward Radio CES letter thing.
So say what it is straight up for people.
Yeah, but like right off the bat, they're like, the CES letter isn't deep. You're just lazy. It was like, okay, first off, is that something people are saying that it's deep? Like, if anything, I think people are saying like, no, I mean, it's like, it's I can't, my brain.
It's not trying to be deep.
It's not trying to deep. It's like a quick summary of major issues. None of it's deep, which is like, yeah, just right off the bat, like,
you can just come like so.
Yeah, I would never criticize the Communist Manifesto by saying it isn't deep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of just like something like, we have a religion that started, and here we are. We're saying that in our religion, when we first started it, it was started with this guy, and he had a snake in his hand. He was a snake grabber. And you read the book, and the book says, no, he didn't do the snake grabbing at all. He was into donkeys or something like that. And so then you go, wait, it said at the beginning he's into donkeys, and now we're into snakes. Like, that's not being deep. It's just saying, I noticed there's a change, or there's something missing, or something. That's not being deep. It's just noticing, which is part of the problem with half the world. Like, it's really bad to notice stuff, you know?
Well, because like Jared made a comment basically saying like, yeah, it seems like this stuff was hidden from me. And like, you got a lot of response on this, but a couple of them were like, I didn't know what you're talking about. They told me all of this stuff in the 90s. I'm like, I just don't believe those guys.
No, I know. That's what Morgan said. The very first thing, she's like, they're fucking lying.
Yeah, I wouldn't go. One
of the guys was like, he's saying, because I don't know, I kind of laid it out. I was like, okay, 3 hours of church every Sunday, extra activities, firesides, 5 hours of seminary every week for 4 years, 24/7 on my mission for 2 years. How did I never hear about the seer stone? You know? And he's like, huh, you think that they're supposed to give you a history lesson? Take a history class. Like, did I just tell you how many thousands of hours you know what? You want to know how many hundreds of times I was taught about the translation story? You think maybe once.
Yeah.
Or at least enough for it to really sink in. The seer stone would have come up. And the seer stone's not that big of a deal. It's really not any weirder to me than the Urim and Thummim. But it is kind of odd that, like, you told the other story.
Okay, we had Risto is asking us earlier what we were able to read or not on our missions. And so we pulled up like some of the books. Let me see if I can share some of them here. Just we actually pulled up the pictures of them. So on my mission, I had this exact set of books right here. If you're seeing it, is on the screen.
Yeah, I had that set too.
A Marvelous Work and a Wonder, Truth Restored, Jesus the Christ, Our Search for Happiness, Articles of Faith. And I think Flip and I have talked about this before. I brought out other books. I brought out books about Mexico. I had those taken away from me.
Yeah,
I was not allowed to learn about the religions of Mexico. I thought that I was doing like a good job of being like, if I come into it knowing what their religions are.
You're going above and beyond?
Yeah. And they were taken away from me.
When I was at the church distribution center before my mission, looking at stuff, and I always went and looked at the books, I got a copy of Religions of the World, which was a BYU religion department textbook that they assigned to students in their religion department. And my MTC teacher told me I had to send it home. And I just lied. And I didn't. I kept it. But I remember having this moment of like, wait a second. Like, what is wrong with this? Like, I would have thought, like, it comes from BYU and it's sold at the distribution center. What could possibly be in this that's an issue? But yeah, no, that said everything. Like, because the only other thing they said, like, you can read the scriptures, you can read the mission library, and you can read Ensign magazine. That was what they told us.
Well, so I'll toss them a bone about like being a lazy learner. Not that I wasn't like digging into stuff as a youth before my mission. Like, I knew I kind of just didn't care and was a goof off in seminary and all that sorts of stuff. But part of why I was goofing off is because I was sick of hearing the Nephi story for the millionth time. You know, I knew I'd heard that story, but like, yeah, I didn't go dig into like old church history, church record stuff. Not that it was really available. Like, you had to go to the library back then. It wasn't on the internet. you know. And
Ages ago, oh, sorry. Keep
go ahead.
going. The ages ago, back when the blogger knackle was still a thing. I think it was maybe Reddit or something. This was more than 15 years ago. But I was reading, it must have been ex-Mormon Reddit or something like that. And there was a guy who was like telling like his story of not being Mormon anymore. And the thing that set him off was that he was at UVU and he was like in a church history class and he was researching a project and he was researching about the death of Joseph Smith, and he had to go to the UVU library, and like for the first time in his life, he was actually just reading the historical sources available, and he learned there that Joseph and Hiram and another guy had a gun. They had a gun and they shot back at the mob. And he wrote about how like he was not bothered in the least that Joseph had a gun and fired back. Like it makes sense. They knew people.
I
were
might
out
have
to
thought
kill
that
them.
was cool when I was 7, you know.
Yeah. And like
that's actually one of the weird ones. That's one of the ones that I learned when I was really young that he had a gun.
I did not know that one.
yeah,
Until
see, I didn't know that one. I don't think so.
I didn't know that one. I didn't know the alcohol one for sure.
Oh yeah.
But he said like that thing would just set him off. Where it's like, well, wait a second. Like he said, it didn't affect my faith at all that he had a gun, but it just set me off on this thing of what else haven't they told me?
Mm-hmm.
And like, why would the church hide this? That was the thing that like, the bug that got in him that ended up leading him out of the church.
Sounds like he wanted a history lesson.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things though about it though is I admittedly didn't get super serious until my mission, right? My mission is when I started reading hard. Before that, I was just there in church, just kind of taking it in, which a lifetime of that shouldn't be nothing either. Not just going every single week, but you go to, as we've talked about, just even at scouting things, we'll sit around and talk about the lore of stuff and that sort of. I heard about the concept of terrestrial smoothie with the TK smoothie. They didn't call it TK smoothie yet, but I heard that concept at some scout camp before my mission. Like, how come I didn't hear about a rock and a hat? You know what I mean? But so it's not nothing that I wasn't like a serious study of it and found it very boring. But when I got on my mission, that's when I said, okay, I'm going hardcore, because this is something about me. You could ask people true. I never in English gave an open-faced testimony of the church. And I did it in Spanish, and I felt like I could compartmentalize that in my mind. At my mission farewell, I said, I don't have a testimony yet. I will get one when I go out there. They tell me, It was, like, it was a laugh line, And I didn't say exactly. It was close to that, And but I took that seriously. I started studying hard. And then I studied the only thing that they gave me, or I could have, which was this. We showed it to Risto. We could have these 5 books. These are the later books, I guess, what they had. But here it is. Like, this is my life. I made this little stupid meme right here because this was my mission. I could have those 5 books, the mission guide, which is just basically what do they call that little group that came up with that advertising thing on how to do it, like a sweet water or something like that.
Heart Cell,
yeah. And there's not really much information in that except for the stuff. I mean, I guess you had the discussions too, which were just the 6 things, and then the quad, right? So I made this picture because like 6 months into my mission, I got a junior companion who was depressed, psychotically depressed, would not leave our shack that looked about like this. There was 4 walls. Other than that, it wasn't different than this. It was about that big. He would not leave that for 2 months. All I did for 2 months was read what's on that table right there. That's all I did. Like, it was solitary confinement. Like, I was literally, like, when I got divorced years later, I said, this isn't that bad. I went through that. You know what I mean? Like, these 2 months were the worst time in my entire life by far. Just me and a depressed, crying Mexican who wouldn't talk to me, reading these books over and over again. So anyway,
it's so triste.
Yes. Anyway, I went because I read those books. I'm like, maybe I just like skimmed over it or something. So I just went and like pulled up from Grok and asked if any one of those books, like, you can do it, like, go to Grok yourself. Do any one of those books say anything about the stone or the hat? And maybe Grok's not perfect yet, but it said, nope, none of them go into the details of that sort of thing. So if Grok was able to skim it that fast, I wasn't able to in 2 months of solitary confinement. But that's lazy learning for me. But that was 2 months when I wanted to, I could do nothing, but what's the opposite of lazy learn?
Well, that's half of what I got was like this one dude went off on me, like telling me, you never read this book. And he like sends me a biography of Joseph Smith. I'm like, yeah, man, I read all the stuff the church told me to. And I'll bet you $1,000 if I would ask my seminary teacher, hey, I actually already read the Book of Mormon. I was hoping instead for my reading assignment this week I could read through a biography of Joseph Smith. He's, I think it's more important to focus on the Book of Mormon. And maybe in your extra time, you can, like, of like I said, the seer stone is a big deal because it's not, I don't know, that wasn't like faith shaking to me, mainly because I learned about it after I was already like not believing. But that's a specific thing that we're very, very frequently taught about, is the translation of the Book of Mormon. Like, you know how fucking often I had a lesson on that? You'd think it would have come up.
Yeah, and not just that. What I commented on the ward thing is kind of the bigger thing. Don't you guys feel, you, the LDS Church, don't you feel I should have found that out from somewhere other than South Park?
Yeah.
Right. Like I literally found that out with South Park. It was not just me. I was watching it with my ex-wife and their family. We all saw that together and just thought, whoa, they're getting this way wrong. Ha, 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 ha. Thinking it was like South Park being South Park. And
it's also a little bit different because with polygamy, you can say, well, they thought some of it was a little bit too much for you to hear about. And so you can say, well, there was more to the story from what you heard, but you did hear some of the story. But with this one, it's not that there's more to the story. It's that the story they told was not true.
Yeah.
They told us a story of, ironically enough, 2 stones that were in spectacles on a breastplate, which looks even weirder than the rock in the hat.
Yeah.
And then you find out actually the real. So how is that really lazy learner? Like, was I supposed to be skeptical of them when they told me that hundreds and hundreds of times? Was I supposed to just be like, you know what? I should probably dig into a bunch of biographies to see if they're totally lying to me about this.
But still, just even beyond that, like you'd have to ask Cardin. Like, Cardin, what else was I supposed to do? Like, if I was just kind of born LDS Utah culture Mormon normie or whatever, grew up around it, started trying to study hard on the mission of what I could get my hands on the mission. I get home and I get busy in school. In fact, I marked on the thing about that time of that South Park thing. I had graduated. I was graduating with top honors at school while working full time. Didn't have much time to go dig through whatever somebody told you, like one of the books that it was in or something like that. And I'd never heard of that book. Still hadn't heard of that book. So, and then I'm in there and I'm looking to going into literary grad school. So like, I remember I was counting them up. It was a minimum 11 books a week at that time frame. And I find out from South Park, like what, why do I find out from South Park about the hat? Like, shouldn't that just be some sort of thing, stopping somewhere and saying, self-reflecting at all? That's not.
I would give my left nut for a time machine, and I would take that time machine, and people would be really mad at me when I came back because I didn't go back to kill Hitler. What I did was I went back to Cardin, wherever he was on his mission, and got a camera and interviewed him, asking about all this stuff that he claims to have known his whole life. And just seeing him deer in the headlights. What's this down?
Yeah.
That's anti-Mormon propaganda.
But it's just, I mean, your post later, I don't know if we described it yet, but I think your post is genuine. And I try to like stop and think about this anytime stuff gets into criticism, like, is the criticism actually helping, or is it actually just poking you in the nuts?
I was going so fucking soft on these pussy bastards. Like, it was seriously, it was like, hey guys, you think maybe there's like room in the church to have this idea that, like, you know what, we did kind of hide some things from you. We were scared of you learning them because we thought it'd destroy your testimony. We realized that was probably not the best move. We're being more forthcoming now. And it was all just a bunch of, you didn't read these Joseph Smith biographies? You're a lazy no. Okay, fuck you. I'm not throwing you any more bones. What? I'm so spiteful. I don't fucking care if the progmos infest your church like a virus.
The thing is like, there's so many. What do we do in this show but talk about weird concepts we've come across? Or weird. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about this? Holy crap! Did you hear about this? The name of the thing tonight's called like Zoochosis, which is just basically like another term for rat utopia stuff of like what happens to zoo animals when they're. But I just heard about that this week. Should I have heard about that 5 years ago? Like, when do you hear about stuff when you hear about stuff? You know what I mean? Like, if I wanted to know about all the things in the universe, I should have known them already. You know what I mean? I don't like. How do you go around getting upset at people? I mean, every once in a while, just as a joke to one of my friends, if they don't know about something that's very, very viral or something like that, I'll joke and say, "How much you pay for the rock, for rent for the rock that you're living under," or something like that. But I guess totally joking. Like, people come across stuff when they come across stuff, you know. And I don't know what is that post doing other than trying to rah the same team more than maybe kind of poke it. I don't know. Does it even like think like X people are looking at it? I don't know. We've tried so hard to like generally be nice to Cardin and Jacob and that stuff, but really in the end of it all, like they're not careful at all with like the shit they say about like a little like about us directly, but about like our general worldview of who or what we are. I mean, we're as careful as they are with us, you know.
Jacob and his hat, his atheist hat.
Cardin and Quaku's Excellent Adventure. That's a movie proposed by Steve. They travel back in time like Bill and Ted.
Did everybody watch my stupid little YouTube video that I put out? Which, by the way, we've got a Maven working for us. Like, the only way you can get ahead in this world is you have to get a longhouse den mother to start putting out your videos for you. And so Morgan has come in, and she out of nowhere, she made a bunch of shorts for that are really funny, that have Jonathan cut short doing his.
Yeah, she buzzed her hair and dyed it purple and everything.
Yeah.
She told you to shut up.
But she can't beat that object permanence. Like, she's got to get rid of object permanence, or she can't pull it off until Norm Macdonald once said you can't do a proper impression of Maven if you can't really get rid of your object permanence. Let's see here.
Morgan's gonna be pissed when she finds out you called her a Maven.
It was Jonathan who actually said that. I was ripping off Jonathan. He's like, "You guys got a Maven now," but no, she is the anti-Maven, but she is the hero stuff. So this is my dumb little video. In the 90s, when the kid could choose anywhere to go and where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
I was like, "Where's this going?" And then I laughed so hard.
You're not playing it.
This is supposed to be working.
We're still looking at books, Chris.
They're not playing?
No.
This is what we need Morgan for.
Yeah, Forrest just said she needs to mod this out of control comment section.
To write down where you'd like to go if you win that trip by capturing Carmen Sandiego, okay? Open up, pins right there. Right up big.
Where do you want to go?
That was me waiting to go on my mission, only I was in a hard panic because I did not want to go to Idaho.
Get set, go. Come on up here, bud. All right. You wrote down top secret information here. We're going to find out now where you and a parent are going. You guys are going to Arizona. Damn, I really hate Arizona.
Yeah.
Imagine being that kid's parent. What the shit? We could have seen Machu Picchu, you little bastard.
Your grandma's dying, and you want to go to Arizona?
I'm a big Eagles fan, and I hear there's a corner in Winslow, Arizona, with a flatbed Ford that.
It's probably something like, that's where my dad lives. I haven't seen him in 4 years.
That's my dad. Every time he talks about his dream trip, he's like, "I want to go to Winslow, Arizona, because there's a flatbed Ford on the corner with a girl in it." And that's. But then he looked it up, and it's so off the beaten path.
Anyway, Moors on the wards. Let's do the Moors on the wards, because that was just that one Lazy Learner episode. Do you have more to say about the Lazy Learner episode, or do you guys?
I didn't even watch it. I just saw the one thing they posted.
There was Jacob's Saber, Conocer.
How would you saber
yeah.
or conocer the difference? Like, how would you saber or conocer how to talk about word radio without watching it?
Does
Well,
Jacob
'cause
know?
Conocer
Does he
is like
know?
met. Like, you don't say I met Matt.
Yeah.
You know?
You
Like, I know how to do long
Well,
division.
it's-
You haven't met long division. Because
he's been saying that shit for a decade now. Does he speak Spanish first? I don't know where he went on his mission.
Yeah, he does. He
he
went
went to
to
Argentina.
Oh yeah, because he said that, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a 1-to-1 comparison to Portuguese, but I'm gonna ask to make sure. So I asked Chris about it. And I was like, how do you say I know the church is true? And he's like, say.
If you ever watch, what's his name?
If you get up there,
Harden's always like sub dogging on his Spanish, and I think I've heard much worse Spanish than Jacob's Spanish. Like, he's not that bad, but Carden acts like he's the godfather of the Spanish language.
well, I feel like he's got to know that doesn't make sense. And like maybe if you're getting into I don't know, if you're getting into like the scriptures and you're talking about, like, you could say eu sei que a igreja é verdadeira, que Jesus é o meu irmão, eu lo conheço. Like, you could, I don't know, you could use the conocer like in a different sort of way, like
It's like saying I've met the Lord.
yeah.
I know the Lord.
But if you go to a Brazilian Portuguese or a Brazilian word and say eu conheço a igreja é verdadeira, it'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I know that it's grammatically silly.
I don't know how hard did they get into
Forrest
claim.
is asking. He says he doesn't speak Spanish. Does Jacob shit not make? No, that doesn't make sense at all. Because he's saying that there's two different words for no in Spanish. One is conocer.
Pull it up.
Because like conocer is like a direct cognate to cognizant. Like, that's where the word comes from. But like the way it's used, it's like, you know, if you wanted to ask, like, have you met someone? You would say conhece ele? Do you know him?
Yeah. It's so if you want to talk about, like, do you know my mom? A lot of people, they know that in Spanish the word for no is saber, so they say yo no sé or whatever. And but like if you say eu não sé tua mãe, they'd be like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't compute.
And no
Like,
conoce.
você sabe ele. Like, that makes no sense. Like, it is the difference between knowing math and having met someone. That's the difference between conocer and saber.
Yeah, it's they have them as two different concepts, and this is one of the things I talk about, like in second language acquisition, because in second language acquisition, it's one of those areas that when you have something like that doesn't translate perfectly, it's one word in English but two in Spanish, which they have the inverse. The inverse is hacer, which in Spanish that is to do and to make, and there's not two different words kind of to do and to make. So like them coming and learning to differentiate between do and make. Like if you ever hear them talking that something comes out kind of weird about do or make.
Yeah,
or,
like, I'm doing some pancakes. You'd be
yeah,
like,
I do some pancakes. Yeah.
Why did you say that?
And when you see somebody doing like a Spanish accent and pretending to be a Spanish person, they make that mistake of that stuff. They're really doing a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
my mom always joked that when she was a student at BYU, and some of the silly stuff she'd hear, but like the first time she said, you know, somebody asked her, like, did you make your bed? And she's like, I'm not a carpenter. Like, no, I didn't make my bed. Like, what are you talking about? I bought it at the store. Somebody put it together for me, but I didn't make it.
Yeah.
Casey said, "I know your mom biblically."
Yeah,
And
you
it
can't.
does-
You can't say that. You can say that. That does make sense. If
It does also work in
biblically, con
Spanish.
yeso tu amai,
Yeah. But
biblicamente.
I don't know. Let's give the devil his due about it, because like so much of this is going to have to be about. I was just listening to Delin complain that Mormons are now changing the meanings of words, but then just yesterday I saw a debate between that Neokum guy and Destiny did not understand what the word American meant. Like, what do you mean by the word American? But you can also go like, well, yeah, but Peterson could make that argument too if he was trying to, what's the word, obfuscate or not delineate, the different word,
Disincommulate.
disincommulate. That's better. But no, if you're deliberate, whatever the word is, it will just be derivative, and you guys won't understand it anyway.
That's right.
Just kidding. What was I talking about? But anybody, anytime is why Stitch's one rule of debates is they're just always about definitions, really. But let's give the devil his due, because he might have been just making the argument of the way that people genuinely do. They go, let's go all the way back to the Greeks. When you talk about love with the Greeks, there's 3 different types of love for the Greeks. There's eros, agape, but they're just making the point that we have one word for something that's 3 concepts for their people, and they might just be talking about how, but at the same time, I think he did say something about Conocer is better than Saber. Like, I think that was.
Okay, well, I know it's
I didn't.
the thing that
I'm gonna double check it. Well, go ahead.
I understand that, like, it is interesting to point when languages have like 3 different words for something that we only have one word for. It's kind of cool, like the 3 different loves or whatever in Greek. Maybe that would have saved us if we had a word for platonic male love. Maybe we would stop thinking that Frodo and Sam were butt buddies or something like that. But that's not really what this is, because Conocer, it doesn't work in the thing you're talking about, because the whole thing you're criticizing right now is Nemo did a whole thing, which also was pretty nitpicky. Like, to be fair, like Nemo, there, Mormons shouldn't say that they know the church is true, because they don't actually know that the church is true, because they don't know it with over a 99% confidence or whatever. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't really care if they say no or believe. They only believe it's true. And so he's talking specifically about bearing testimony, saying, I know the church is true. And Jacob's like, well, they could say Conocer, and that's a better no.
It's funny, 'cause, like, that's Nemo and Jacob, who both completely pretend to not understand the Mormon concept of faith.
Yeah,
they both play the exact same game. They're like, what are you talking about?
And that guy yesterday, there's that one biblical scholar who's been going after Dan McClellan, and Dan McClellan's whole entire game is equivocating about words. Equivocate, that was the word I was looking for earlier. See, if you stop thinking, it just comes out. But the whole game is equivocation in the philosophy world. But I think that's where these guys were right, though. That Nemo's kind of admittedly by himself, just unaware of the whole philosophical world of, hey, we can mess everything up with words, and
there's also, this too, Cardin, having you speak Spanish, that to know something can also mean to know it. Like, there's Saber, and then there's Conocer.
Yeah.
So, and what's funny is in the scriptures, when it says that you will know the truth of all things in Moroni, it says Conocer. Now, Conocer isn't like knowing with your mind, like an intellectual type of knowledge.
Oh, it actually says that in the Spanish Book of Mormon.
Sorry, go back. I didn't totally.
He said the Spanish Book of Mormon says Moroni used the word Conocer.
But in what context?
I know.
There's also, this too, Cardin, having you speak Spanish, that to know something can also mean to know it. Like, there's Saber, and then there's Conocer.
Yeah.
So, and what's funny is in the scriptures, when it says that you will know the truth of all things in Moroni, it says Conocer. Now, Conocer isn't like knowing with your mind, like an intellectual type of knowledge. It's a familiarity through like direct experience and association.
Like, do you know Kate Alvey?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, I know him. Yes, exactly.
You know,
And so
not if
Yeah, so he's making a specific argument about this. It is
Y
right
no me
here.
doy a conocer a los lamanitas. That's the no that we're talking about.
Podemos saber que el libro de Mormón. Hold on a second. Conocer.
That's chapter 1.
Domino 5? What? There it is, but what's the saying?
Oh, y
Doesn't
por el
your
poder del Espíritu Santo podréis conocer la verdad de
Yeah.
todas las cosas.
10:4 through 5. So, and that's in Moroni's promise.
Yeah, I could see it used
Man,
that
I
way.
do not remember it. Yeah, for sure.
No, that
Yeah, you become familiar with all
Yeah.
these things. You'll use familiar with concepts, but conocer, you would not use saber there. Podré saber la verdad de todas esas cosas. I guess you could also use saber, but it's like one's just saying like you'll be familiar and be able to grasp like all these concepts. It's kind of like the difference between grok and yeah. I mean, so I think in that case there, I think he's got a point about the specific case that he's talking about. That it's being more familiar with concepts, being familiar with the truth of these things. Yeah. Let's keep listening to him.
well, okay. Like, I guess if you're going with this one specific example, then yeah. But like, you're never gonna find a Spanish speaker that says "Yo conocer que la iglesia es verdad."
Yeah, and that's the thing that Nemo was criticizing. But I mean, but that's what I was saying is like, was Jacob bringing up like a different example of like how things might be different or a different way of knowing, because he's just getting down into the details with Nemo that he hasn't looked much into epistemology at all. And there is a lot of different ways of knowing, especially if you get into postmodern epistemology. I saw Bogosian have like a whole discussion with people in New Zealand who were supposed to choose on if Western ways of knowing or indigenous ways of knowing were better. And they
Western.
didn't come. How dare you choose?
I answered it.
No. How are you supposed to get like in touch with the earth? Like, have you taken like your shoes off and walked on the earth? It's called grounding, man. It's called grounding.
That happened to me, but I was on acid.
It's actually and it's actually something that RFK says you should do. So
I've told that story before.
that's
but it was when
Western now. Western annexed. Yes.
I was on acid and I was walking on the dry lake bed of the Great Salt Lake for miles, going into where the water was, and because like I could barely see like 3 feet in front of me, and I remember experiencing like the exact thought I had was like the thing that's not really true, that Eskimos have 40 words for snow. I was like, I just experienced 40 different kinds of sand with my feet. Like there's skloopy and there's squishy and there's scratchy and there's crunchy. And there's like, I was like, holy shit. And like, yeah, I totally had that moment, but drugs help.
in the biblical sense. No.
So there's 3 senses.
Yeah, so for him to just flippantly be like, you don't know this, well, what does he even mean by no? And that's a very legitimate question, because when we are claiming, if he thinks that we in the church are claiming perfect rational epistemic certainty whenever we bear our testimony and say that we know something, it's like, that's not what we're doing.
Does he flesh this out in the video? Does he
So,
define
we'll
it?
get into it,
'Cause I
but
haven't seen
it doesn't
yet.
give us much help. Like he gives his own definition of knowledge, and I can't wait to talk about that. But he never gives his own definition of belief.
Okay, well, let's let him talk,
We just
because
react to
before
some
I was so
questions.
rudely interrupted by Jacob Hansen,
Hey,
I was just
definition
going to
of
say
belief,
that
What's that?
like when people are like, what's the definition of belief? To accept as true.
Yeah, well, it's
Like that's the simplest and most useful and accurate definition of what it means to believe something. Do you accept it as
turn into Wittgenstein real quick? He's like, let's stop screwing around with this. Let's stop. And it's just, it does just seem like it does always get back to Ted Danson and the thing of like, everybody just shut up. We got to come to like a simple basic thing of what we're talking about and stop playing the games. But
well, that's I don't know. If you ask what does he mean by no, like Nemo, if I had to really guess, and I feel like I feel like I'd come pretty close. I'd say that you are fairly, at least very certain in a material sense. Because, like, of course, you can do the whole, and they do it a little bit. They do the whole, how do I know that Flip is alive right now? I can't know that, right? I mean, he's in front of me on the screen, but this could be pre-recorded or something, or I could be hallucinating, or yeah, sure, I can't. But like, all that shit aside, I know that Flip's alive. That seems pretty. It seems like a pretty axiomatic statement that I can make from right here. So
I'm pretty tired, but I'm alive.
So that's kind of, he's just trying to say that, like, I can't say that I know the church is true in the same way that I can say that I know Flip is alive. I understand that. And so easily what they do here is clarify by just being like, yeah, but we feel like there's a different, like, it's no in the spiritual sense. Like, it's been so confirmed to me. Sure, I can't confirm it in the material world, but that's it.
I'm gonna see if Grok, like if I switch out that Conocer for Saber, what Grok will think about that.
Don't you have to use El Grok?
The text is a Spanish translation of a passage from the Book of Mormon, and specifically Moroni 10:4. Here is a precise English translation, maintaining the original meaning and intent. Ask with a sincere heart, with real intent, having faith in Christ, and by the power of the Holy Ghost, you'll be able to know the truth of all things. This translation preserves the spiritual and doctrinal nuance of the original, emphasizing sincerity, intent, faith, and the role of the Spirit in revealing truth. All right, let's put a Saber in there.
Well, you talked about it before. Oh, never mind.
What's that?
No, I'll do this first.
Saber, yo no Saber. Well, you remember because like we were talking about, like Risto asked, do people say or conocer when they bear their testimony, and they say yo sé? And I found like a testimony from some sister missionary, and she's kind of like, Garden goes too hard on Jacob's accent because Jacob's accent is totally fine, but this gal's accent's so bad that I can't even believe it. But she just right off the bat uses "say." Let's see what happens. A precise English translation, preserving the original meaning.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say was that, like you mentioned before, that like if you go to Mexico and you tell a Mexican, I don't know, yo sé tu madre, they'd be like, what the shit? And it wouldn't even register in your mind because they don't understand that you have that concept for just one word to know. So it's never, but Grok knows, like, I don't know, I presume all languages, right? So Grok could probably, this is just a dumb American who doesn't know that there's two different words for it.
It's like, yeah, there's a million ways you can play that game. Like, to find, like, are you buscando or encontrando?
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, I mean, the thing is like, I don't know that this one is. I don't think it's bad if somebody takes it to mean like the extra thing, but at the same time, I also think that it can just be 100% of what Flip's saying. Like, it's just the difference between, like, do you know this concept? Yeah. Are you familiar with this concept? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it really is kind of trivial in this situation.
Isn't it, so buscar, that's more to search out, right? And encontrar is kind of more to run into.
Yeah.
Yeah, to encounter and to seek. The first one is seek, the second one is encounter.
Yeah.
Anyway, to the point of it, though.
Into the fucking language weeds again.
That's all we ever do. That's all any of this ever is, man. Because, like I said, they were just talking about it on the Lin. I was just listening to it on debates on other stuff. Like, everybody, everywhere is getting postmodern with language, and I don't know. It gets a little bit frustrating. One of the things I wanted to look at tonight was that same gal, the second story gal. She went into villains, like she did a whole episode on villains, and I thought it was almost kind of worth listening to, just to listen to the breakdown of what's wrong with postmodernity in all. And this right around that, I listened to this other breakdown of of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I listened to the Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny first, and then I listened to her breakdown of postmodern villains, and it was like I listened to the things in reverse. Like, here's the example, and here's the thing I'm going to tell you that you're going to be listening to. But so much of the era is still just more postmodern stuff, and I usually joke about Mormons. We all joke about Mormons are 20 years behind, but ex-Mormons are also 20 years behind. And it just kind of feels like this whole entire church is just starting to breach into the postmodernism of 10, 15 years ago, you know.
I want to read my thing I sent to the group before we get into this, because you sent this after I sent. It was just a screenshot. If anybody's ever played the Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War games,
am I supposed to pull it up? Hold on.
I got it on my phone, so I can just read it. But if you want, you can pull it out. It doesn't matter.
I'll pull it up.
So it shows a picture of. I'll wait till you pull it up because this is funny. For nobody who's played it in Shadow of War, you meet Shelob. I don't know if you remember Shelob, but she was the massive, deathly, terrible, evil spider that tried to kill Frodo and Sam finally beat, right? Anyway, that's Shelob right there in Shadow of War. I don't know if you can tell, but she's a lot more fuckable in this iteration.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of into spiders.
Instead of 8 legs, she has 8 boobs.
Oh. So this is Tolkien talking to his son Christopher. Like, Christopher, my son, did I ever tell you the full story of Shelob? You know, the monstrous spider descended from the vile Ungoliant, which I used to read aloud in our Oxford meetings of the Inklings. Well, what I didn't mention back then was Shelob could also transform into a totally hot babe, all pale and dark and wan like Rebecca in Ivanhoe, or what will later come to be known as the goth subculture. In fact, she looked very much like the pornographic actress Stoya, who will be born 13 years after I die. Christopher, I will be entrusting you with my estate. If there is ever a video game adaptation of my work, you must make sure they get this Shelob right. Make sure she is what the Anglo-Saxons would have called a Hida-Ige, a really sexy bitch. And I actually had to look at. I didn't know this, but it really is based on Stoya, who is apparently. Oh well, I didn't. Stoya really is a porn actress, apparently, and I don't know if they actually based it on her, but from the non-porn pictures that I saw, you pervs, it looked like her. I'm gonna look it up.
I just looked it up in the in some pornography, and I'm gonna turn off the channel. No, just kidding. Here it is. No, Sheila was not based on the adult film actress.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Anyway, I texted my friend that because he is a huge. I like Lord of the Rings a lot, but he's
a
read
big
like
porn fan.
everything. Yeah, he's a huge porn guy. But we were talking about all the lore problems.
I knew who Stoya was before you said that. You want to know why?
Because you watch a lot of porn.
Because I watch a lot of porn.
Okay.
On to the next subject. No, she was the girlfriend of that comic. Stoya was one of Shane Gillis's friends.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
See, here's the thing.
Mark.
Marin?
The one that, I can't even do his impersonation of him. Anyway, she's also the one who sued James Dean for raping him. They were engaged and they were getting married, and she sued James Dean. And James Dean was in trouble for possibly going to prison for a long time, supposedly for raping her, even though they were engaged.
Mark Norman.
Mark Norman.
That's what Charles said. Charles is balls deep in an edible and
I forget all the names and all this sorts of stuff, but Mark Norman's a name. You know, he's actually one of the funnier guys around, and he did some of his stand-up comedy about dating her.
You know, it's funny. The amount of porn star names that I know It's probably like, I don't know, 5 to 8 that I could probably just name off the top of my head. 9 now with Stoya. They all come from memes. Like, and it's not because like growing up, man, I watched the shit out of porn. I was a disgusting kid. I never learned any of their names. Whenever somebody would ask me, "What's your favorite porn star?" I'd be like,
names are going to be like
why would you want to know their name? Ew.
Names would have to be for ones that have gone like mainstream. Like everybody knows Stormy Daniels now.
Yeah, I know that for the Trump thing. Yeah. I know Mia Khalifa because she made a big stink about Bang Bros not paying her enough. I know Riley Reid because she's on a meme. I know Stoya because she's on a meme. I know. Maybe that's it. I might know some more. I can't think of any.
There was the one that was on the TV show. Gosh dang it, my brain.
Oh, there was one that tried to be like real conservative and shit like that. She was.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I remember that. Brandy.
I can't remember her name.
Her name is Brandy.
But like,
she showed up at like the conservative convention.
She went to like a Turning Points event and got kicked out. And they're like, if we don't hold space for all types of people, go to her page. It's all stepmom shit. No, don't hold space for that.
There was one that got a recurring role in Entourage. And then I saw some people complaining because she also would kind of go around and do like some kindergarten readings and stuff like that. Like, how's the girl who's famous for like gangbangs also doing kindergarten readings and stuff?
I knew Jamie Presley, but that's because I watched My Name Is Earl.
Jamie Presley, she's not a porn star.
Pretty sure she is.
My
Name is Earl. I'm pretty sure she was a porn star one time.
She hasn't even done nudity.
I swear to God, I heard she was a porn star at one time.
No, you're mixing her up with somebody.
I'm gonna pull up some fucking porn, okay, and I'm gonna show it.
I know that because I attempted to find Jamie Presley nude. No way, Jamie.
There are no nudes.
There's no fucking way.
I mean, that was a long time ago. Maybe she's done nude since, but no.
No, for some reason, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I thought
Jamie Presley is like clean as whistle.
Oh, I've been sullying her name for years.
I have defended her honor.
Maybe she'll send you some nudes now.
Yeah.
For your reward, here are my nudes.
Who was the one on Entourage? Entourage porn. Oh gosh. Yeah, look at it. It's Sasha Grey. You've heard Sasha Grey.
I know the name. I can't picture her.
She had a recurring role on Entourage, which of all TV shows, that was another thing I wanted to talk about, was the TV shows and Howard Stern fading into the fart and dark. But Sasha Grey, Entourage started out as a really good show. And why was it a good show? It was a good show because they were like a bunch of losers. And then that show, maybe it was like the opposite of what the postmodern world does, but they all just became like super successful, can't do anything wrong Hollywood producers and stuff like that. It just became lame. And it was funny when they were losers. Like the show is based around, you have a bunch of shitty Entourage guys following an actual star, you know? But
I actually watched it. Did I ever say about the interview I watched with Riley Reid? This is like after she quit porn. She's probably back into porn now. Who knows? I think she has an OnlyFans now, but I'm watching this interview with her where she's explaining her toxic ex who, like, I get home from a shoot and like, you wouldn't even kiss me. Like, yeah, that's because you just swallowed a gallon of cum. Like, what? Of course, he doesn't want to fucking kiss you. Like, and
what
like,
was that on? She was actually saying that. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't like a bit.
No, it wasn't a bit. It was that cuck Adam22 interviewed her, and she's talking about how he was controlling and stuff like that because, like, he one of his hard rules was no gangbangs, which if you want to think about it, like that's a weird rule because like she's taking it up the ass from a million different guys at different times.
That was Riley Reid.
Yeah, she's talking about how, and she learns that was him being controlling and shit like that. Yeah,
you know, I've seen her. I've seen pictures of her. Do you know that she's like married with a kid now?
Yeah, I know.
And totally like quit that whole world and all this.
No, she didn't. She has an OnlyFans.
Oh, never mind.
That's what every time you go to the comment, like somebody's like, "Hey, look, she made it out.
She did it."
And then like 8 of the people are in the comments like, "No, she's got her OnlyFans."
And what,
Like
she,
the
and
idea,
she's
she's
still.
like, I did a shoot today where they put a dog collar and a leash on me, but then I came home and my boyfriend was controlling.
Oh, I think I actually, you guys gave me like a meme of that one. I think I have it in here. Hold on. It's all the way at the end though.
Oh, Lana Rhodes is another one I know because she also tried to sue.
Lana Rhodes?
She tried to sue
I was
to
thinking
have.
that was like a singer.
That's
That's
Lana
Lana
Del
Del
Rey.
Rey.
And she tried to sue and get all of her videos taken off the internet. And I was like,
Oh, I heard about that.
That's not how that works.
That's just it. I'm sorry, lady.
Women's rose hands. I'm going to kill you harder, daddy. Men's romance. Yeah. I like this one from the hypergamy world of Superman. I wonder if I can do better. Anyway, let's just go back to the start of this because like I had stuff like in an order, and then we just started going off on the word radios, guys. And all
So
that
it's talking about
Are we
Spanish.
done with like the words and the Conocers and Sabers and we're never done with that because it's just going to endlessly come up that people are going to toy with. People are going to toy with meaning. But one of the main things I noticed.
Picture going on here.
Oh, I don't know where I found that. I was on some smut website. No, I was kidding. And I found some picture of this Mormon family. Look at that Mormon family right there.
And well, you can see the garment lines too.
You can see the garment lines. They got the temple in the background. Did you guys really not notice the temple?
Oh, I mean,
That's
I
what
noticed
Morgan
it.
was
I don't know how she didn't notice it because I mean, I don't know. I've lived here my whole life.
You
pretty
snuck
much.
her over to that, and you made her do that. You
There's just
tricked her.
there's just a
You
deck
tricked
that
her.
there's a deck that extends out, and if you want to get a good picture of the falls, you're gonna get the temple in the background.
You tricked her. The temple's right by the waterfalls there.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know.
It's very pretty.
Wow. Definitely going to be pulling in overtime over here. The families cleaning Saturday morning definitely have this covered. And I have to say, like, I was talking to my friend who's leaving the church and he's so bitter, and I'm trying to like talk him out, like, don't be bitter, don't be mad. And we were talking about some of those pragmatic things, and I was kind of telling him, like, you got like 4 kids, and your kids are your world. I bet you if you weren't Mormon, because of the money, you probably wouldn't have had 2 of them. And he was kind of like, yeah, because we were dying because I was paying. He's so mad about paying tithing. But like sometimes I have to stop and say, like, man, like I couldn't have gotten that mad because I got out so young. I didn't pay into it. So some people have like put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into this. You know.
No, I do remember like one of the most haunting posts I've ever seen was when I was like freshly out and is in the ex-Mormon subreddit, and this guy, I remember it was titled, "So what the hell now?" And he's basically saying he's in his 70s, stopped believing the church, left it, and he's like, for the longest time, the only feather in my cap was that all my kids served missions and they all got married in the temple. And now I made the mistake of calculating how much tithing I've paid over my lifetime. And it's like it's nearly 7 figures.
Oh, good.
And I'm like,
yeah. So that's something that I lose sight of. But you want to know what? I don't care about finding out about no hats and no rocks and no South Park or nothing like that. If I was around now and they woke me up on a Saturday morning to go clean one of these things, out! I'm out! I'm out!
You guys, you have the fucking money.
Yeah.
You could just pay. You can even undercut some illegal immigrants. They'll pay it for $2 an hour.
I would.
Do a better job than my 8-year-old. Come on.
Could not stand for it. I could not stand for it. Reese still says he can't join the church, but he can't leave it alone. He's the only one.
Yeah. That's good.
Star Wars Co-op noticed that we got shorts now before GTA 6. Who would have guessed it? Should we watch a short or two real quick just to some advertising? Do Divas and watch our own shorts like a Divas does? Or I could actually watch like a oh, I do have some Divas shorts. Divas. Oh, Divas.
That one was bad.
Divas is such a ding dong. Let's start with Charlie Kirk's coming next week. You ready for Charlie Kirk? Everybody ready for Charlie Kirk?
You know,
We're gonna be spazzing.
Yeah, I agree with us.
Joining the
I
show.
love it.
Oh, that's a whole long
That's
thing.
not
That's
a
like
short,
23 minutes.
Yeah, she just cut
Oh.
the certified sexy vocal fry part.
Hold on here. Where was like the good, just little quick?
You just got to go to the channel and click shorts.
For divorce.
This one doesn't even star us at all.
Nope.
Here quite often is that opening your marriage is very risky for divorce. What I would like to say about that, first and foremost, is marriage is risky for divorce.
Fucking
Here. Wait,
Morgan immediately commented on it. Oh, there it is. It's not that drunk driving is risky for an accident. It's that driving is risking an accident.
So dumb.
And then Kevin, but it might work for us.
Might work for us. All right. This is what Morgan can't really pull off a Maven until as long as she has object permanence.
Matryoshka dolls, all right, and some of them out, but like
demonstration.
like they're separate, like they are separate. So there's no so they're both equal value, all right. But when you've got just the one and there's something inside of it, this is what has the most value. Can you see them like with your own two eyes? Like one is another doll inside of the other. Like,
Oh, do
Can
you
you
see
see them
what's
with your
happening here,
eyes?
sweetie? Are you here? We see it. And now, oh, where'd it go? Oh, you're right. Kill it.
Did you guys see this? The Rock has turned into Foucault.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unman
Yeah.
me wherever it was.
Um,
On my way to Boy Rape Island. Who's to say? Who's to say?
Okay, this is my favorite short that I agree with. Nobody puts out more content than us. Nobody's good at. We're going to be the kings of ex-Mormon content. Mark my words.
I think we already are the kings of our niche.
Yeah.
All the dozens come here.
He pointed out in the study that men are almost twice as likely to prefer polyamorous relationships. Would this not make it seem patriarchal? Like, why don't so much women get with the feminism of ethical non-monogamy?
Okay, I think I've learned a lot in this. I think, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, sort of a sexy vocal fry.
Yes,
Is the only reason that men are twice as likely to do it because the patriarchy has shamed women out of their sexuality?
Oh my God. It's like you climbed inside of a woman's mind and you just spoke her truth.
Oh, I'm so happy.
That's exactly right.
Thank you for educating me. What do I owe you for your emotional labor?
This was a freebie.
Wow. I feel like I'm taking advantage of you, though.
I'm going to be starting a life coach subscription service soon. And if you pay me $50 a month, then I'll be available to have joint sessions with you and your wife where you can allow me to triangulate anything that you want to shame her for. It's going to be great.
He pointed.
She really undersold herself right there. She honestly could have well, she honestly could have charged $399.98 for a package of a minimum of 8 sessions over a 6-month period of time. Like her labor is worth more than that. I've never seen a life coach go so low as $50 a session.
Yeah, that's got to be the introductory offer if you use the code Ben Shapiro.
I found this New Yorker thing. 3 babies sitting in a room, one looking at each other, says he has this crazy conspiracy theory about object permanence. Chess, a trans woman who is a woman wanted chess somehow. I don't know how that happened.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I got in an argument with a lady where I should stop arguing about this because it doesn't matter. It's the issue is pretty much over. But I don't know. I see a severe amount of dumb and I can't help it. But it's the whole somebody in Idaho there was a trans athlete that was trying to sue the school board, and then he cited like that due to public backlash, he was going to stop the lawsuit. And there's an argument down there with people going back and forth. And this one lady's telling me, I was like, do you not? Because she's trying to tell me, oh, well, actually, sex is a lot more complicated than you think. And I was like, okay. Generally speaking, who has the biological advantage in sports, males or females? And she was like, oh, are you gonna like Brittany Griner is a lot taller, or Caitlin Clark is a lot taller than me, and do you think she has a biological advantage over me? And I was like, okay, there's a guy your same height and your same weight. Do you think he has a biological advantage over you in sports? And she's like, no. And so I was like, oh, thank God you freed me from this argument because you're retarded. That's absurd.
Oh man, look, I found the Destiny clip. Here's this. Watch this. Ugh. Why does everything go to not talking?
Or professional carpet salesman Stephen Bennell. What precisely is an American?
That's a very complicated question. I don't know. It depends on who you ask. Or it depends on what level you're asking.
What do you? Okay, so you just like stun locked me. What do you mean that's a complicated question?
Well, are you asking like what is an American as per? Do you have a social security number, or do you mean like what is the concept of an American?
Like numbers? You thought I meant like a random sequence of numbers? Stephen Bennell, carpet cleaner? No, I meant like what is an American? Where you literally currently live.
Well, I don't live in America. I live in the United States of America. I guess in that case, I'm an American.
Kill yourself.
Security number?
Oh, that was what a wordsmith. No, Gary, go on.
Yeah, somebody with a social security number, I guess, from the federal government.
That's it. That's the basis of like your nationality.
This is why I asked you what you mean when you said what is an American. Are you talking about like the concept of like a nationality, like a conceptual, or are you asking like some shared set of values? Are you asking like who has legal protections? For the
Okay,
US
so
government,
just to clarify, we're having these like very high level conversations about birthright citizenship, but you don't know what an American is. Just to clarify, Stephen Bennell,
okay,
professional carpet cleaner.
Oh shit. Okay, he can never make fun of Jordan Peterson again.
I mean, that's just generally how it goes. I mean, I was listening to the Mormon Stories guys getting very, very upset that the Mormons are equivocating on words or just deciding what words mean, or getting upset that Terrell Givens said something that all of academia would reject. Well, science, like all the science would go against it. Academics would shoot that down. You sure about that, John Lee? And you sure about that? Like, I just watched the whole entire thing about which ways of knowing are better, Western or indigenous. It didn't come out of conspiracy land. It didn't come out of Maha.
His little preamble that he had to give before criticizing the black Mormon lady and her stupid take was pretty hilarious. He's like sweating bullets Jordan Peele style. And honestly, when I say sweating bullets Jordan Peele style, I'm referring to the meme. I'm not at all trying to appropriate the black culture of Jordan Peele or saying because white people and black people can sweat very similarly. At least I think so. In fact, I'm sure white people even can sweat more than them at sometimes. So I just want you to know I'm not.
Just for fun today,
I'm not racist.
I watched the Shake Like Me episode of Aqua Teens on the Internet Archive, and it's just funny because I think Meatwad is saying like, "Oh, he's turned black," and Frylock's skeptical, and the proof is that he tells him to go swimming, and he's like, "No, I can't." He's like, "Oh my God, he's black."
He gives him a basketball to dribble. He does a dribble from, and then they wake up the next morning and their entire house is covered in spinning rims.
It's so classic. But then like later on, Frylock forces him to a pool, and it's like a vampire in the sunlight. He literally catches fire.
Shit! He makes it drink milk.
Just to continue on committing naturalistic fallacies like we so often do with our evo psych, or not just evo psych because it's also physical, but The we were talking about men on average have like better spatial. On average, like there's a standard deviation different. They have better spatial abilities and awareness. Women on average are better with colors and patterns and stuff like that. So
Impossible.
it's like, so you could feasibly set up games, which by the way, guess what? The WNBA played some 8th graders.
Oh boy.
Recently?
Yeah, it happened. I didn't think they'd ever actually dare to do it, but like, yeah, and the 8th graders beat them. Unfortunately, I didn't think that would come up. Yeah, I have video of it.
It was just a scrimmage.
But I didn't think they'd ever dare do it, but they did it. But like you could game a game that would favor the things that women have stronger or are better at, on average than men. But like I said, I was saying to you guys yesterday, men always have the one little one-up super skill, which is the autism and the ability to be extremely competitive about inane things. And women can do that too, but not for 75 hours for 10 years straight.
Oh, dude, you wanna look at the most inane things possible? Just watch speed runs of video games. You're like, holy shit. The level of autism it took to figure out that on Super Mario 64, if you roll, pause 3 times, and then long jump backwards, it takes you all the way to the final level or whatever.
Oh yeah, Summoning Salt, the video channel Summoning Salt has all the different progressions of how they got better and better and better at speedruns. And there's not one woman on there. Why is that? But this is like the question that Jordan Peterson always asks. Of course, lefties shut their ears off because Jordan Peterson can't say it until Brittany Hartley comes around several years later and says kind of like a tepid version of the same thing. Then you can hear it, right? But he was just saying one of the problems with women, why they can't become the best at crap like that, is because they're often better adjusted than those guys. They choose to have a better life than sitting there and destroying a video game up and down, left and right for 7 years straight, 90 hours a week on average. It's not an insult. That's not an insult, but there are things that women have better aptitudes. Like this game's set. I bet you if you made the game just 3 shades of green instead of purple, red, and green, 3 different shades of green, I bet you women would just destroy men for all time and all eternity. And if they just like made it the most popular game, or
you know what's hilarious is that if you had this conversation with a feminist without the pretext of what we said before, she would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure, but women are a lot better at that." And you'll find out real quickly that nobody's you'll find out real quickly that nobody's actually a real blank slater. Because as soon as you start complimenting the oppressed on like certain things, like if you say that black people are like to be really good at sports, you don't get in trouble for that.
Well, they do.
Black people are really. What's that?
They started calling it a microaggression if you assume the black guy was good.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, most people, if you say, "Oh, black people are pretty good at sports," those Asian guys are really smart. They seem to have like really good study habits and stuff like that. Women can really see.
No, it's called model minority. That's a model minority.
Like Asian doesn't count. You're right.
But you're totally right, though. I'm not shitting on your point because they've invented those things later. But at first, they would all just be like prone to say, "Yeah, they can totally be better.
It's inherent."
Yeah, it's inherent. Do you think AI men and AI women are different?
Hey, honey, I'm going to need you to count to 1 million for me.
Oh, wow. Counting to 1 million would definitely take a bit of time. I appreciate the humor, though. Let's just say I can do a lot of things, but I might not put you through that endless way.
Well, I don't mind. You can put me through it. I got nothing but time.
I'll spare you the marathon, but I'm always here for the fun requests.
And if I switch this to a male voice, would it be yapping as much as you, or would it just...
You'd still have the same me behind it, so you'd get pretty much the same level.
Let's see about that. Let's see about that. Let's see about that.
Hello.
I doubt it.
Hey, I'm ready to hit the. Hi there. I just want to.
Hi there. Nice to meet.
Hi there. I just want to share.
Hey, I need you to count to 1 million for me.
Absolutely, I can do that. Here we go. 1, 2.
I told you that AI was.
No way. That's too perfect.
Holy shit.
Divas, man. Divas is really, really upset at there's Harambe boy. Star Wars Glory, Dragon of the Desert. That's Christopher Lee. Divas is very upset at just how sexist RFM is.
When Radio Free Mormon dares to mispronounce the name of the patron saint of Mormon women, Chieko Okazaki, sex powerhouse Exmo women come in hot. What starts as a tribute turns into theological takedown, pronunciation clinic, and an unforgettable lesson. Why can't Mormon men just listen to women? In this episode, we unpack who really was Chieko Okazaki, why she still matters to the Mormon feminists today, and why men like RFM need to stop talking at women and start listening to them. Stay for the laughs, stay for the cringe, stay for the Chieko truth bombs.
You know, one time.
Did you watch the clip?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the clip up. At great risk of the channel.
Oh yeah. Didn't it kind of sound like
we got to talk a lot over this? We got to talk a whole lot over this. What's that?
Didn't it mostly kind of sound like this was like they were joking?
He's goofing away. I think at first he was like, it's happened to me where I'll see a name in Spanish that doesn't seem like a very common name, like some name like Perez, and it'll be like Perz, Perz without the EZ. You're like, what the hell is that? That's not right. And then you're like, look it up, and like, no, that's really that guy's name. Like,
yeah,
you know.
Sure, but also, like, if we're trying to do the whole idea of mansplaining, is that it's a man with no expertise explaining confidently and shittily to a woman with a lot of expertise something in her area of expertise, and it's always misconstrued. It's almost never really that, and it's almost never because she's a woman. He would, if he's a dick about it, he'd do that to anyone. But like in this case, like RFM speaks Japanese.
He speaks Japanese, but these women also know this lady's work very
sure.
very
I get it, but like,
but also he's also like digging into it and is joking and is totally funny and fine. Like he's even starting to like double down after he kind of knows he's wrong.
No, I do that with my wife like all the time. If I'm like, I always tell her like it's really weird. Like I don't know. I always make the joke that I'm always right on everything, and then like what time was that thing? And I thought it was 7 o'clock, and she told me it was 8 o'clock, and then I'll say like I'll text somebody to find out, and I'll come back and I'll be like, I was right, it was 8 o'clock, and you were wrong when you said it was 7 o'clock. And she's like, I said it was 8 o'clock. And I was like, that's what I thought at first, but I'm not like wrong on stuff, so I'm confused here at why I would think that. So
these people never realized that gaslighting was a flirtation all this time. We were only ever flirting. We were only ever flirting.
I was just trying to put another baby into it.
Yeah. No, come on. What do these things start on?
You got Troy, Asian supremacist over here.
What's that?
Troy's Troy's the Asian supremacist over here. Making fun. He's dunking on RFM for going to the subpar Asian continent of
those imperialists, murderous Japanese.
Okazaki.
I don't think it's an Oka.
No, it is. It's Okazaki.
I'm just going to check it out here only because I want to be right. Go.
And I'm so sorry you're going to be wrong.
So 100% this thing's just Divas being petty because he's mad at RFM.
This is just a lighthearted exchange.
Yeah, he's trying to dig up just being petty to RFM because
No. Somebody has misspelled it Okazaki on the internet. No, wait a second here. No, it's Ozaki in the BYU Scholars Archive. That looks
You
like
want me to get one of her books and show you? It's on her books here.
RFM, we're really not doing a really good case for you when we have an all women's panel.
Yeah,
and,
you're wrong, RFM.
You're trying to tell us how to
and the
pronounce
internet
the
is wrong.
Relief Society's last name.
Well, I'm just
She's the patron of Mormon women. We know her. We love her.
Names.
Did you guys know her and love her?
It's like
This is the first I've heard about her.
I never heard of her.
it's like telling. It's like trying to tell some dude bro.
Brittany Hartley and her dude bro crap. Shut
Dude, I
up,
saw some
Ozaki.
dude, bro. Like, no, it's Joe Rogan. Like, no, it's Joe Rogan. And it's like, no, we know. Like, we know it's Okazaki. Like, he's
Okay.
our patron saint. Like, we know.
Well, I went to Japan on my missions.
that
And now that
was.
we've established that I was
I'm
correct. and
sorry,
it
Iris,
is
but I'm going to
Okazaki.
speak over you.
See, that's that part that now that we've established that I was correct, that
he's joking.
That's like what I would say after obviously I was incorrect on a thing.
So Diva's sending us some comments somewhere like, I think he can do better.
Oh, I know.
It was like Diva's one time at work, I had to confront a kid who was sending texts to a minority, sex messaging a minority. And when I confronted the kid stopped and started lecturing me about some other lady who had guilt shamed all the different women around there because she told them that they needed to wear a modest uniform. So she was she was victim blaming or victim shaming asking the women to wear a modest uniform. He was diverting from the attention that he had been sexting a minor to get on a high horse to
wait, did you say minor?
Yeah.
Oh, you said minority the first time.
No, a minor.
Oh God.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like sending messages, and he wasn't that far over a minor. It would have been Romeo and Juliet stuff, but it was still like, kid, like, don't do this. You don't do that at work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, to deflect from the horrible thing he had done, he got up on his dumbass high horse, and Divas thinks that's his out. Like Divas says, that's not your out. Your out isn't to become the lecturer. But I think that's like what so many of the different like woke people like get into. Is like, my way out of this is if I can just become a bigger woke skull than them, I'll be accepted back into the tribe.
I'm gonna bail soon because of my tiredness.
No.
And I've been working a lot lately. Did you have any?
We were talking about all those porn stars. I was going to go on a
Yeah.
quick jerk off break if you want to hang out for that.
We were going to get into stuff, but we got, like, again, being the dude bros, we got diverted by porn stars. Like, we keep talking about
every
porn stars all
time.
the time. And
I was have a minor thing just because Christophodopoulos was talking about it in the group about he went on a little rant about therapy. And I was actually thinking about this lately about like, so like my history with therapy was like, my wife kidnaps my baby and I'm really sad and angry and it's affecting every part of my life. And people are like, well, why don't you go to therapy? So I go to a therapist and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm really sad and angry ever since my ex-wife kidnapped my baby. And they're like, pills?
yeah.
They're
Have
like,
you had enough pills yet?
Have you had enough pills? And like, they're like, well, okay, I'll try your pills. Like, what's this pill? Like, oh, it's Zoloft. Try it. Like, I try it for like a month. Yeah, it's not working. Well, keep trying it. I try
How
it for
fast
3
did
months.
How fast did
And,
they
like,
recommend the pills?
And like pretty much right away. And then I'm like, I was like, so wait, do the pills make me hallucinate spending time with my kid?
Did you
Like,
try the Soma? The Soma works.
Like, are the pills supposed to make my ex-wife like have her Scrooge on Christmas morning moment and realize like, I don't need to do this actually? And so like, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to take these pills anymore because they're not doing anything, and neither is therapy. And like a few years go by, and I'm still really sad and angry all the time, and it's affecting every part of my life. And so somebody's like, well, you should try more therapy. I'm like, well, all right, I'll try. Go to the therapist. Like, well, what's going on? Like, well, I'm really sad and angry because I can't ever see my kid. Oh, well, pills? and like 3 times, like it was 2 antidepressants, and then like a few years later, I go back and like because the antidepressants do nothing. I don't hallucinate time with my kids. The pills don't make my ex-wife stop abusing me. And then like the 3rd time, I'm like, yeah, I'm really sad and angry, and I can't ever get anything done, and I have no motivation, and everything sucks. Adderall.
Oh God!
And it's just like, and that was the whole thing. It's like, and then
So it
there's,
becomes like the thing for the side effect of the other thing.
yeah, well, like
Plus
it's not even
the
that
other
because I never took the longest because they told me with antidepressants like, well, you have to try them for a while. It takes a while for them to kick in, and I tried.
You want to know what all that's based on?
Nothing.
Like not a lot. Like a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. But then and then the incredible irony is like finally I can reconnect with my kid and I can talk to him. And would you believe it? My depression went away. Like, isn't that the craziest thing? And it turns out I didn't need therapy. What I needed was
so how did
talk to my kid.
No, like, I mean, there's got to be some way that the state saved you there, like somehow it's somebody.
Somehow, the pills
Well,
somehow.
I think I've told you before about like Morgan and I we went to a marriage counselor once, and we just once, and this is one of the only times in my life Morgan had a very like voodoo-y granola upbringing, and it's always been like more of a pain in the ass than anything. But it's one of the few times in my life I was very grateful for it, because we go to the marriage counselor. He talks to us for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. Morgan starts tearing up a little bit, and he starts telling her that like, we need to diagnose you with something and get you, and he doesn't even say pills. I shit you not, he says chemicals.
Chemical?
Sorry, chemicals. He's like, we just get those chemicals. And he said it so many times because sometimes there's a chemical imbalance in our brains. And if we get you some chemicals in there, like, he sounded like an evil genius. And we walk out of that, and it was maybe he's doing some 4D chess here, because it was very bonding. It really strengthened our marriage to walk out of that. And I guess it helps us realize that like the thing that makes me and Morgan love each other the most is just shit talking like the worst movies and the worst people and all that shit. So we just chat talk that guy for like the rest of the day, laughed, had a good time. She left a terrible review for him, and
we need to get you some chemicals.
Yeah, but that's like with my story. It's like exactly that, where it's like, you know, my problem is that I'm being abused and I miss my baby. And they go, well, you have a chemical imbalance. No, it turns out I didn't have a chemical imbalance. It turns out I was being fucked with.
I had a baby
and it affected
imbalance.
my psychology. Like, what the fuck is that?
So how long do they tell you to try it? Like you got to try it for
Probably like 3 months. Like I think they've said like, you know, it takes 3 months for it to take effect. And like,
holy,
there's been 3 times maybe in my life that I've gone to therapy and they're like, well, let's try antidepressants. And I've taken them for 3 months and they've done fuck all. And one of them, if anything, like when I was a teenager, they put me on Wellbutrin. And if anything, that made me feel like shit. That's like, if I ever had any,
like physically,
just generally, yeah, like I was worse than ever. And I don't even know if like that was just coincidental or if it was the drugs, but like if I had any discernible effect from taking antidepressants, that it ranged from no effect to feel worse. You know,
so I had a friend who she went to therapy for a long time. She had all this shit. Part of her issue, and she would never listen to you if you told her this, was that she spent anytime she wasn't at work, she was in her pajamas watching like Bob's Burgers and just eating dog shit. And like that's when I get all crunchy and granola. I'm like, dude, you gotta force yourself to do things. Obviously, this is something I don't like practice very well, but I preach very well, like, because I'll get in those funks where I don't do anything, even things I want to do. And then when I go out and do something I want to, like, I force myself to do it. I'm like, I feel so much better. I should have done this. But she doesn't want to listen to that. Goes to therapy. They put her on this med. I don't know what the med was, but she's like, you know, I had made jokes about being suicidal before, but I was driving to my therapy session like a couple weeks after taking these pills, and I saw the street lamps on the side of the road, and I almost swerved into them so many times. Like I wanted to commit suicide. And then like she pulls over, calls her husband. He comes and gets her. They talk to the psychoanalyst or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, well, one of the side effects of this is suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Wait a
Not
minute.
good.
This is an antidepressant. Yeah, it can make you feel woozy, or it can make you want to fucking die.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. Is like, they tell me that there is statistical clinical evidence that antidepressants are effective, but I've never seen it.
You meet somebody who's been on antidepressants for a long period of time.
Like
and
my
they've seen
mom's
it.
been on antidepressants for 40 years, and she's still sad.
It takes a while.
Oh, that's right.
It's coming around. It's coming
She just
around.
got back from Brazil, and she brought me half a wheel of impossible to find cheese.
Nice.
So I'm excited for half a wheel of cheese. I'm gonna have to give it to a bunch of cheese-loving
Oh,
friends.
hey, when are you going to the UK next?
I'm planning, if it's not concrete yet, but I'm aiming for December.
Okay, because I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know anything about the layout. I don't know how far away your son lives from like where they speak in a Cockney accent, but I always thought about how Brazilians sang hymns, and it always made me laugh because the tilde in Brazil in Portuguese is just so ugly to sing most of the time. They can do it well, like, but anyway,
Yeah.
it made me think of like I don't know why I'm listening to somebody sing this hymn in like a podcast the other day. I thought it'd be the funniest thing in the world to go to a Cockney speaking like a Cockney accent ward and just I like to look for rainbows whenever there is rain.
I don't know. So right now I'm thinking about flying into Heathrow because I might be able to get a direct flight. It would just mean a 3.5 hour drive to Liverpool because Cockney is a London accent.
Okay.
How
far is London?
Well, Heathrow is in London, but it's like 3.5 hours to Liverpool from there. But just a nerd thing. The way you know that you're Cockney, because there's no place called Cockney. It's not like a place. The way you know if you're Cockney is if you are born within the sound of Bow Bells, which is the cathedral bells of the Bow Cathedral, which I think is kind of cute.
That's kind of cool. I like actually. I thought you were gonna say something really funny that would make me laugh at him, but I was like, I like that quite a bit.
It's just kind of cute. Like that's a really the bow bells. I think it's Bow Bells. The Church of Mary Le Bow. That's how you know if you're Cockney, but that's pretty much central London. And the thing is, London is so vast. It kind of hurts the brain about how just gigantic it is. But anyway, I'm gonna bail because I got to sleep at some point.
All right.
Later,
you didn't
kid.
wait. I'm gonna get you for 3 little things. Well, one of them was just going on about what you were saying here because I'm not gonna do too much on it, but the whole those forest elves talked about the rat utopia and the zoochosis and that sort of stuff. So look them up on a base camp talking about that. But it reminded me of Alan Moore, who wrote this weeping gorilla thing, which it was all the way back in the 90s, but he always just kind of just had this general joke of like this big powerful man, but like all the stuff that he said was just like, I really like that song by Radiohead, Being a Creep, and that sort of stuff. And so we probably expected too much of George Lucas. And this is like memeing like back in the 90s and stuff, but I just put it in like one of these things. But just two of the last 3 things. I have just a quick little video of the area where Flip and I worked. So this is where Flip and I worked at the Salt Palace. But there's a YSA dance going on. Look how these guys are dancing. This is where we talk about that. People always ask, like, where do MLMs? Did anybody make money off of MLMs? Well, Flip and I did because we ran the convention center where they would show up to do stuff. That's where you'd make money from them. But
there's another language thing that ties into this. As delightful moment working at the Salt Palace, because we worked with lots of international people, and I remember one day I was just so delighted by it, but there was like 15 people from all across Latin America, a lady from the Czech Republic, a lady from Ethiopia, like some people just from scattered all around the world. And they were all united about ranch being the ugliest English word. And just all these people in their various accents going, ranch, ranch, ranch.
Really?
And the Americans were like, yeah, that is really bad. That is a really dumb word. Ranch, ranch.
I guess it sounds kind of nasally if it ranch. I don't know.
No, especially because for them, because if you're English, ranch, or like you imagine a Brazilian saying hanchi, like my mom calls Rancho Market hanchu, which is pretty weird. But like to listen to all these people going ranch, and we're like, and the Americans are like, oh yeah, that is pretty gross.
It was pretty ugly listening to Americans try to pronounce the tilde Especially
Yeah.
like when you, especially singing. I couldn't do it. And you can listen to actual like professional Brazilian singers, and it does sound very pretty because they know how to do it. But
Yeah.
like we're sitting there singing like secret prayer, like, secreta oração.
What a song. That is, I don't know. It's weird because that sound exists in English and we say it 50,000 times a day, but we don't have a letter for it. So our brains don't cognate it as its own thing.
I would just
You
tell
know?
people to hum with their mouth open, like don't let any air escape. Just go like your tongue like this, just the back of your tongue's up at the top of your throat. Go,
Yeah. No, it's like it's like for example, sing.
Mhm.
And people are like, how do you pronounce that? It's like it's literally how you say sing.
Yeah.
Like because you're not saying singa. You don't pronounce that G or singing. You don't say singing. Nobody says that. You say singing. That's it. That's the noise. That's all it is. Sing.
Yeah.
That's and just make that noise. But the thing is, you have to combine it with other vowels like São Paulo, João,
São Paulo.
Fong. Like fong, or one of the weirdest words is for frog. You remember the word for frog?
What is it?
Hung. Just R-A with a tilde. Hung.
Huh.
Hung.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Is that the only word for frog?
There are probably more.
Because
I
I swear to God, maybe it was toad that we used more because like in southern Brazil there were so like in the interior places there's a bunch of dirt roads, and anytime it would rain these toads would like come out, and then you'd in the middle of the dirt road you just see them like Looney Tunes style completely flattened.
Maybe it's toad, yeah, because sapo. They say sapo, which is the same.
Oh, sapo. That's the word I knew.
A
Yeah.
hung. I know a hung is a kind of frog, because it also might be one of the situations where it's a native word. Did you notice the thing how you can always tell if a word in Portuguese is actually derived from a native word and not Portuguese?
I mean, I would just try to sort of Latinize it or whatever, or not Latinize,
No,
but like
if the stress is on the final syllable.
Oh.
Tupi, Guaraná, Arará, Urubu. All of the native words, the
Yeah.
stress is on the last syllable. That's one of the giveaways that it's not Portuguese. Anyway, where's Super Nooch?
He's kind of in and out. His
conked out and it conked out my stuff, but I'm here.
Are you back? Because I'm gonna bail.
He's
the last thing I wanted your opinion on though was the Graham Lineman thing.
Oh, yeah, positively Orwellian. That's insane. Like, I mean, I don't know, but like, because it's surprising it took this long for them to actually do that.
Well, it hasn't. I mean, in other
To
nations,
actually arrest him.
Oh, to arrest him specifically?
He got arrested.
Yeah, he got arrested.
No, I know, but other people have been arrested for shit like this.
Yeah, no, but I mean that long for him though, because he's been he's the highest profile except for J.K. Rowling, but she just hides in her castle in Scotland. She's got like a moat and guards and stuff, so the police can't come find her.
That was kind of a masterstroke when Scotland tried to pass that law on hate speech, and she says, if anybody gets arrested for this law on hate speech, I will retweet the exact same thing that you said and make them arrest me too. And they were like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's Orwellian. It's extremely strange. Especially because they just passed that law that says no, women are women and boys are boys, and that's all that Grand Lindenham said. I guess punch him in the balls, but come on.
Yeah, punch him in the balls was the closest, but
These are the three I have them here. There's I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. Fuck them.
Yeah. Wait, that's a bad thing to say, that you hate misogynists and homophobes?
A photo you can smell.
Why did they include that one?
Yeah, the only thing that you could if you have a rule against tweeting violence, punch him in the balls. But even then, come on, he's obviously joking. Well, I mean, it's a joke built into it. But I mean, it's just it's kind of like saying if somebody's invading your home, punch him in the balls. Okay, that's how that works. A female only space, men.
Well, it's kind of funny because it was this was right on the tail of Jared getting an argument with our good friend about how Orwellian and I guess Chinese in the Trump administration was in the in their censorship, their upcoming censorship. And most of the things he pulled up was just, I guess, students visa holders getting in trouble for.
Well, here's the thing. Anytime I get here's the deal. I think that technically speaking, if you are not a citizen, they can revoke your right to be here at any moment for any reason they want. There's certain reasons I think they don't do that. Like if you get a speeding ticket and they revoke your citizenship, like don't do that. That's come on. Like I know you can, but you don't have to, and that's kind of shitty. If they protest Israel and say, I don't like what Israel's doing, don't do that. And that's what it's always framed as. But then every single time it happens, you find out that they actually had legitimate ties to Hamas.
Yeah. That's the thing that's driving me nuts about the whole immigration thing is because the left, the NPCs, the DNPCs, they downloaded this. They're not getting due process. Where it's like, and they said this about the guy, a guy I know, a guy who I hope stays in the country, but there's a local violinist who got picked up by he's, as far as I know, he's still in custody with the immigration people, and it's because he was under the DACA, he was under the Dreamer Act, but he got convicted of a DUI, and that invalidates it. And everybody's going, but what about due process? Like, no, this is literally due process. He's being detained and hauled before a judge. That's literally the process.
I had this discussion before with my dad. I work with my dad, and he came in and he's talking to me, and there's one of the more lefty guys sitting next to us, and my dad looks at his phone and he goes, if I have to hear one more fucking thing about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, I'm gonna kill myself. and I just start laughing, and one of the guys is like, who's that? And I was like, he's the Maryland father who got deported, and they say he didn't have due process. I was like, well, everyone should get due process. I was like, oh, okay, what does due process look like? Though, like, due process, if you're, because Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an illegal immigrant, and the due process, even without that, the due process is like we found out you're an illegal immigrant and we confirmed it.
Yeah.
What more process do you need?
Yeah, the process is can you show that you have a legal right to be here? No, then you are subject to deportation. That's the process.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different people got caught up in thinking due process surely meant. Well, I mean,
like a jury trial or
something.
It's obvious that to the leftists, due process means that you get unlimited appeals, and that you are never, ever, ever deported, unless you're Elon Musk, in which case deport him, even though he's an American citizen who has never committed a crime.
Well, to say, I mean, it should be common sense understanding of words, since we understand words. No, we don't, right? But due process, the process that is due for this situation, and the process that is due for somebody being captured and not being able to show their legal ability to be here, that should be the due process. However, that will get the Supreme Court had it in front of them, but they kicked it down the can, and they are going to be fully reviewing it. So we'll find out what those words really, really mean here pretty soon.
Hooray.
But in the meantime, this other gal you remember the one who called the kid the N-word in the
for disturbing the peace or something like that.
Yeah, she got arrested. So
disorderly conduct.
So I don't know if and on top of that, just this week, Count Dankula's pug passed away.
Oh.
The Nazi pug has passed away.
Oh no!
He posted that too, and that's after he got prosecuted for the dumb joke of teaching.
Yeah, he was facing jail. Like, he didn't actually go to jail, did he? He wasn't arrested.
He got fined.
He was actually charged.
Yeah.
But didn't he say that he was never going to pay? Like, I thought he said, like, I'm never paying this.
I don't know.
Something like that. But then that old thing of the process is the punishment, because he was in court for a long ass time. He did get fined for the whole thing. But what's so funny is, like, right in the middle of that whole entire thing, in one of the seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David teaches a dog to hail Hitler. You know what I mean? Larry David does it, but I mean, I guess that's a Jew, you know. One of the Count Dankula's most interesting recent episodes is he talked about how Hawaii's fake, and he makes a pretty good argument that every single thing that we know about Hawaii might be kind of like an American invention of it from our slop world of it. But his argument is that they're trying to do what they did to Hawaii to Scotland. They're trying to turn it into a tourist slop fest of what Scotland is in this like Baudrillardian mentality of like, you know, hyper reality. Like, this is a strawberry. No, it's not a strawberry. It's a Slurpee. Like, they're trying to turn Scotland into the Slurpee of Scotland. And he has a long, really good video on how Hawaii is actually just the Slurpee version of whatever that place was before. Pretty interesting. Anyway, Flip, I'll keep it going. This is
cool. I'm out.
Hasta la pasti. So, you know this Dean Withers kid? This is a pretty funny thing.
He's so insufferable. I was like, I watched that whole thing where he's talking to the guy who's more of a Trump supporter and just says, I am going to tell people to call CPS on your family because I don't think you should have your kid anymore. And I was like, man, I am slow to violence, but like if somebody did that to me, I would want to hurt them.
I honestly genuinely feel like the country is unhealthy in the fact that like everybody who's arguing from that side is some sort of that, you know, and like you kind of wish you could find like somebody who is more just ready and willing to have like reasonable debate on things, but it's like it's getting too out of hand to do it. But this is funny. The Ottoman Empire might be long gone, but its spirit lives on in every Turkish man, instinctually called to amass a collection of twink eunuchs. And it talks about how all these little guys are gathered up by Hassan. Hassan reveals he's been trying to mentor Dean Withers and Harry Sisson. So,
twink eunuchs.
Which is really funny because like one of the weird things to get into about the world of slavery and all that sorts of stuff is the slavery of white people in that part of the world went on far longer. It's far more brutal in the sense of a lot of what happened in slavery throughout history was those people were not able to breed. Like in the United States is one of the only places that the slaves were able to breed, bringing about more heartache for like families and families splitting up and that sort of deal. But the reason that there's not a lot of like continued slave population out of the Ottoman Empire is because they just castrated and killed them when they were done with them. And that went on for centuries and centuries. Anyway, our boy Seth found a study that says lefties are smarter, and you gave him this meme of
Oh yeah, me on my way to adopting lefty viewpoint to prove how smart I am. I hate those studies so much. You know how many times I've met somebody who like posts on Facebook a study that says people who swear more are actually statistically higher IQ than people who swear less. And I'm like, yeah, it just so happens that you swear a lot.
Yeah, it's all this the Reddit brain stuff and that sort of deal.
You didn't read the study, did you? You were just like, yeah, that's probably fucking goddamn motherfucking true, isn't it?
Anyway, back to this stuff. I kind of wanted to talk about that second story in the villains. Did you listen to the whole one on the villains? Or I don't know if talking about the Mormonism Live and their attempted takedown of Jacob. Did you watch that?
Of Jacob?
Yeah, last Friday on Mormonism Live, they did a complete Jacob takedown episode.
I don't think I watched it. That
You
would
didn't
be.
watch it?
Yeah, I also didn't watch the entire villains thing. So
They brought on Jim Bennett and they kind of just regurgitated on the same things. But one of the things that I made a comment on, I saw Troy commenting on my comment, but I think I showed it to you, like saying like there's Kettle Logic. Like it doesn't make sense to me that those guys come in and say Jacob is such an idiot for thinking that thinking that Jim was saying the policy was going to change here, but he's an idiot because the policy is going to change. But the policy is probably not going to change. But the policy is going to change, but it's probably not going to change. And Jacob's an idiot. He's such an idiot for this. And
for all the hell he's brought on society, at least Derrida gave us the phrase kettle logic.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of made a longer point of like all just the different contradicting things that they were saying in there. And Jacob, he has other contradicting things in his life, but on that one is just consistent, isn't he? It's just, and that's one of the things that Delin was talking about today. Delin's just constantly like, wow, dare Jacob get upset and notice that this thing might going to change. And it's for sure going to change. It's definitely changing. But those guys don't realize that on the way it's changing. There's disagreement amongst the brethren. There's disagreement amongst the top brass, and they don't like. So why is Jacob the devil for all you guys? Because all he did was notice it and say that, hey, there's a lot of people saying this. And if you go and look at everything that's been ever said from the pulpit, it's the opposite. Like Jacob's the only one being consistent there on that one, on that issue. And Jim's coming in and being Weasley and gaslighty because the way he presents himself to Jacob is that I never hinted at all that it would change. And then he marches into all these ex-Mormon places and say, it can totally change. It's definitely changed. Doesn't he understand this change is going to change and all that sorts of stuff?
He just explicitly states it. And I don't know, maybe he's actually dumb enough to not remember that he said that. I really don't know. Like, but I think a lot of times he's being intentionally deceitful because even today on their live, there was this great part where it was actually Julie Hanks pointed out, well, you know, the voice that wasn't really represented in this faith thingy, the inconvenient faith thingy, was the Orthodox Mormons. And Jim kind of chimes in, well, I like to think of myself as a pretty Orthodox Mormon. And like John Dehlin immediately was like, I don't think I'd probably consider you a progressive Mormon. And he's, well, yeah, that's probably fair. Like Jim backs off,
but he acts
quickly.
like he doesn't know what it is when people like Jacob or Cardin call him a progma or something. Well, what is this? I don't even know what this means. Just because I think we should be nice. And then, of course, out of every other word of his mouth is the church is definitely going to change on this. It's going that direction, all that sorts of stuff.
That inconvenient faith thing is such a hilarious example of how, like, I guess to quote scripture, you can't serve God and mammon. Like it's pretty, like, you can put it in a secular way. You can't please two people, right? Like, so Julie Hanks even said, I wish Jacob Hansen would leave me alone because I'm totally okay if he stays a Mormon, but he doesn't want me to stay a Mormon. And I think I draw a bigger circle because I'm inclusive, and I think there's totally room in a church for me and for Jacob. I was like, I don't think you understand the difference between you two. Like, it's cataclysmic. You're saying, like, we can and should pray to Heavenly Mother, and he's saying praying to Heavenly Mother is heretical. If you're in a religion, how do you
There's beliefs.
Both of
There's
those.
beliefs.
Yeah, there's
like,
beliefs, and if you say, "Oh, the beliefs are all wrong,"
yeah, you have to go to like the extent end of it of just saying like we have a club where our belief is that, you know, well, I just the narrow beliefs, you know, make it just something simple. I don't know what we believe.
Well, if I join a vegan club,
there you go,
and I'm like, actually, I think that eating specifically porterhouse steak is still vegan.
You aren't being inclusive unless you include
yeah, you're not being
halal eaters. You can't like it's Islamic and it's racist. I mean that is a really good parallel to that. Like, okay, we're a vegan club, but you're being racist and Islamophobic if you don't let in the Islamic halal eaters, like who eat the you know, that's got to be you can use a dagger of current modern neoliberalism, calling somebody a bigot about this thing to get them to accept in the thing that is the exact opposite of what their club proposes itself that it is, you know?
Yeah.
But they don't, I guess it's the same question you're saying with Jim. Are they not aware that how inconsistent they are, or are they being sly bullshitters, you know?
I don't know. I guess you treat them the same way either way.
Yeah, that's how it always is. You just have to go like.
At this point, after my lazy learner whole fiasco today, I'm like, you know what? Go at it, Jim Bennett. Go fuck up.
Dice the whole thing up.
As hell.
Well, I mean, I got to like levels of it where does seem to me so much on the church side that they are cracker barreling, you know, and if they're going to cracker barrel, I've got, you know, I don't want to defend a cracker barreling at all either. The same way that cracker barrels will go down. Like if they're not going to hold to their own identities or something like that, why should I be sitting there telling them to? You know what I mean? And but I think one of the only reasons why I say like slow the roll on all this sorts of stuff isn't just for the individuals. Is like I genuinely kind of like worry about it on the societal level. Of it. Dylan was even talking about today. He was saying on the societal level, if you change stuff too fast, you lose 70% of something. Like yeah, but beyond like what that does to a family or a group or a people, like you kind of don't know what that does to a whole city or to a whole place or to a whole people. And that's one of the things we've been watching play out in Europe and everywhere. It's like these deracinating kind of stripping of identity things that leave people kind of in a zoochosis and not reproducing and not having shared identities and stories. It starts to, just like the postmodernism, it starts to be an acid. It starts to be an acid that strips away that community. And it looks like in long-term stuff, that's not going to survive. It's not going to survive, or at some point or another, it's going to have a very strong reactionary kickback, like is happening in Europe right now. You know.
Hey, well, you're gonna go back to full Sargon at this point.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting.
No, I'm saying the UK.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're probably too far gone to even pull back. I don't know.
I don't think they can beat it.
You what?
I don't think they can beat it. This is one of the things that like I was pointing out in our chat is just one of the things that you can stop and look at and say is that culture of England, of who and what English people are, who is an English person, what's an English person. Everybody knows what we mean still to this day, generally by an English person. That thing survived millennia. Major things happened to it, like Moorish invasions, you know, the Gauls and the Romans and who knows what. It survived through all of that, maintaining and holding identity, a shared thing. And that whole thing could go kaput in 40 years of Blairite liberalism, of just being nice and opening the gates until the whole thing becomes Islam. And you say, well, we're very nice, and we very nicely became Islam over here. And that I don't know how that's a huge slippery slope jump, but it is really kind of true. It's kind of like be nice, become Islam. It is the deal that, because they're the ones who are going to come in and purposely and, you know, an organized minority and breed and push in their hard ideas and do that sort of stuff. They say an organized minority always beats the thing. And it just generally feels to me like, you know, Dylan and those guys talking today, there's like, anybody pushing about this, it's just boundary maintenance. It's just boundary maintenance.
Yes.
You don't get to say just boundary maintenance as that is you know, an apparent obvious evil. You know, boundary maintenance is part of survival.
Yeah, it's like a macro scale of like what happens to, you know, fan bases and shit like that.
Yeah,
you get the Warhammer 40K fans who are like trying to gatekeep, and then what you got to do is convince them that gatekeeping is just in itself an evil. So they stop gatekeeping, and so they're like, okay, all the Space Marines are trans, and they're like, that actually doesn't make much sense with their ideology. And they're like, well, you're hateful because we're the fans now, and else they box you out.
Exactly.
They've taken it over and transformed it into something that's completely unrecognizable.
Well, okay.
You let in, you're a liberal society that let in a bunch of people who would totally vote in illiberal policies, and then you're shocked when your country is no longer liberal.
Exactly. And for being the defensors of liberalism or classical liberalism or whatever it is, at some point you just do have to stop and say, if it is true that demographically speaking, Nigel Farage was coming out and saying London flipped from 80% to like 30% English since Blair, you know, and that's in 20 years or something like that, if those numbers are true. But it does seem other larger numbers are saying that like that country's going that way by 2050 it's going to be minority or something like that. So in a single 100 years, the niceness of the liberalism undid what 1,000 years. And of course, there should be some people, or would be some people on that side that say, well, that's a good thing because that big imperial English society was always just a bad baddie, you know. But yeah, something that survived and we all understood all that time got eviscerated, and no one can stand to blame it but post-war liberalism of, yep, we just became so nice. We became dodo birds. Like, you know, we started nesting all the birds of other people's, you know, eggs or something. Like
It's fucking Lion King. It's, you know how confusing that was for me growing up. Like as a really little kid, the first time I'm hearing about how like letting people in who are different than you is probably like a liberal virtue, and that's what we need to do. And then I would like Lion King is my favorite movie. just the part where Scar lets in all the hyenas and just everything goes to shit. Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe hyenas think a little bit differently than lions.
Yeah, and
Like, what do you think is going to happen to your environmentalism if your entire country becomes Indian?
Or your environmentalism or your feminism, if it all becomes Islam. Or
I can't think of a country that gives less fucks about the environment than India.
But one of the things that like the atheists or the liberal or the secularizing people need to ask is like, is the secular thing able to defend against not becoming Islam? And I don't know that Christianity is doing too well at it either. And these are one of the questions you'd always ask one of those woke right types. One of the things we pointed out is that you guys kind of get into the historicism, which is you think that history has a for sure, this leads to this. Well, then didn't your monarchy lead to this liberalism? You know what I mean? Like, so isn't everything just on that same timeline of inevitable black pill death for all of the stuff? But oh man, Brittany Hartley told me the problem with being nihilistic is you're right.
It sucks being right all the time.
No, I mean I'm not nihilistic because I think that identities still should be fought for, but not like a nutbag, you know. But you should not be so oikophobic or unable to defend what you are and what your people are, or be ashamed that you have a people. That you can't just say, hey, no, let's try to keep our identity somewhat a little bit here. It's so funny because you listen to Delin and there's Margie by the side, like, well, why can't you just open us up think about how sad it is and like, how sad it is for people to believe a church that says that their sexuality, like, who are you appealing to? Because if they believe it, if they believe that it's God who sets it, why are you appealing to all these people to change it?
I know. Well, it's
you're lying that you believe it's God, you know, because if it's up for all the people to change it, then it's not God.
See,
you're lying that you couldn't just leave it because you don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always say to people. There was one of those Scott Brown posts where he's asking why we never call it the straight lifestyle, and he's talking about what do we tell the gay members. I was like, I always just tell them to leave, but I'm like, I'm not a Mormon, so like I don't believe that it's true. So it feels like being gay is almost irrelevant because most people, I don't know, I feel like most gay people are like, oh yeah, I'm gay, and therefore Mormonism isn't real. Like, what should I do? But I just leave it, you know. Like I think you'd be better off.
What is?
But that sounds. I don't know. Delin and his ilk try to make that sound like the most evil advice ever. Because no, there should be a place for him in a church that says that their lifestyle is sinful. Why? Why should there be a place for it? But I don't know. It's funny watching Delin because one of the most honest things he's ever said is that joke that we keep running over and over where he goes, I hate the fact that I'm a straight white male. And because you can see it now, especially now that he's trying to kind of push back against some of this shit. Like he tried to push back against Helfer on her whole just hug anybody stance, and he pushed back on Jim's progmo thing, and he's saying, I think this documentary is a good thing because I'm worried that communities can't hold together unless they're religious or whatever. But it's almost like there's like two
he's got
bitch ass wolves fighting inside him.
Yeah, he's got
One of the
zero
bitch-
second guessing that his demand that they just let in the whole entire LGBTQ wouldn't just destroy it.
Yeah, but even with that, it's like the metaphor is going to use is he's got two bitch ass wolves fighting inside him, and one of the bitch ass wolves is like, well, I think maybe progressivism's a way to go, and then the other bitch ass wolf is like, well, I think that like maybe Mormonism's not super traumatizing to everybody, and like, there's not much fight in him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that. I mean, we went over it enough last week about the whole crackle barreling of the whole entire thing, and it is just, to me, it's kind of funny to me how, in a weird way, like all those ex-Mormon influencers that were so derogatory to the church for so long, if it starts hinting at all that it will pink wash itself, which is the term for like becoming cool with the LGBTQ, and just ignoring that they weren't in the past, that they'll become defenders of it suddenly, like everybody back on the ship. We'll be apologized for. How dare you criticize Jim for saying everybody come back?
Ryan said, problem with the Lynn is he wants the church to be his church. It's America, freedom of religion. Find one you like or start your own. Don't try changing what exists. Stupid. I was actually thinking about this earlier. I was like, it'd be a fun thought experiment to try to conceive of like a progressive church that I could start right now today that wouldn't end up either being a death cult or just dissolving in itself after it becomes too universalist.
Yeah. Yeah, they would all just fall into the same trap and be the same thing, because that's not what a church is. And all they could ever do is dissolve and destroy that church. That's all that Dylan and those guys have on offer, really. Even though they're pretending like that's for the children, that's for the nice. No, you only offer death to that thing. That's all you offer it. I know that's a secondary possible positive goal for you, but no. If the Lynn, RFM, all those guys from last week, Coach was on the episode. He popped back up.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah. Well, because those guys will dunk on Jacob, and they'll just let all logic go aside just because it's time to hate on Jacob or something like that, to not notice like how full of shit Jim is about. Maybe you'll let all logic go aside because you think you're being nice or something like that, but it's illogical. Like what Jim is doing and asking and saying and claiming on one side and the other is completely inconsistent.
But is it nice?
It's nice. It's nice. It's an activism. It's for the nice things, so that's okay. But if they get their way, it'll just break it. Anyway, this is a really good thing on why nobody can write anymore in Hollywood and anywhere, and I think it kind of like hints at all this stuff together, because it's about postmodernism and how postmodernism messes up the just even the it's Foucault. It's Foucauldian stuff. Like we've tried to like point out like what the Foucauldian thing is here. What is evil? Like ask that question as if you were a helper instead of like this gal who's a really well thought out wordsmith, and this gal's really intelligent. I really like her.
Oh, she's great. You probably weren't young enough to ever watch Naruto, but like,
no, I didn't.
That was one of the things in Naruto is so they have their jutsus, right? It's like their magic spells they can do with hand signals. They're like, oh, this is fireball no jutsu. This is lightning no jutsu. And the joke in the fan base is that Naruto always used talk no jutsu. and he just has like, he gets to the point where he overpowers the villain or at least gets them at his mercy somewhat, and then he talks to them a lot, and then he decide they were totally wrong for destroying an entire city or some shit like that. And they were like, oh man, see, the villain was just misunderstood. Yeah, he killed like 6,000 people. Maybe I think the sunk cost is going to sink in at that point, and he's not going to listen to your talk. And it's like every fucking villain. They had to like They had to pull an extra villain out of their ass that was not even foreshadowed at the very end of the series, just so they could have somebody to finally defeat. Because they're like, oh fuck, Naruto never defeats anybody. He just talks them into being a good guy after going on a homicidal rampage.
Yeah,
I was misunderstood just like you. People were mad at me for vandalizing the village and being a general dick. That's just like you getting your ass kicked by your dad, and it's, I don't know.
I mean, that's what one of the funny things about it, because like ask this question as if it's just somebody like giving a speech, or ask it as a Foucauldian or as a Helfer or as whoever. What is even a what is a even? And that's some of the writing we've been living in forever. And it's the same question as you said Scott Brown was asking to you. Like, everybody feels so impressed that they can stop and get philosophical about like what is even this? What if the opposite were true?
What if the opposite were true?
Wow, I'm so deep. Yeah.
Evil. Before we get into it, I want to illustrate the philosophical idea of evil as I was trained to understand it. This is the absolute most basic and simplistic idea from which a great deal more interesting thought can emerge. This is by no means meant to be some kind of comprehensive treatment of philosophical evil. All right, a lot of you got pretty steamed last video when I said that I was going to state facts, not opinions. We're there again. Obviously, I would not believe that the definition I'm about to give you for evil was the true definition unless I had reason to believe it was something more than an opinion. If it was just my opinion, I wouldn't bother making a whole video about it. The reality is that, in a sense, there is no such thing as evil. Stay with me. Good is a thing. Good exists. Evil, properly speaking, is defined as an absence of good. This is nice because here you can get your degrees of evil. However much good is absent results in a greater or lesser degree of evil. This is what gives people this idea of gray areas. I hate that term because it muddies the understanding of good and evil. Good is an absolute. It can never be great, but it can be absent to varying degrees. According to this philosophical understanding, there is no such thing as innate or intrinsic evil. No thing or person can exist which is evil in itself, because, as I said, evil doesn't itself exist. It is simply a lack of good. The more a person gives himself over to evil, the less good is present in that person. Properly speaking, a person doesn't give himself over to evil, he abandons good. So really big, ugly evil like Morgoth or Sauron is actually very accurately described as a kind of void. Big evil that is almost utterly absent of good would be like a moral black hole that absorbs all light and has a kind of magnetic pull. Side note, to aid in clarity, when I say evil absolutely exists, I mean that evil is absolutely definable. When I say that philosophically evil does not itself exist, I mean that it is not a positive, substantial entity in itself, that its existence is reliant on the existence of good, which is a positive, substantial entity in itself. This whole thing is sometimes called privation theory, a term I hate, but I kind of hate terms in general. But if you want to, you can either open a separate tab in your browser and type in privation evil theory and do some reading, or if you prefer curated sources, you can look up one of the titles I have on the screen right now. For all of you listeners out there, just so you know, there are currently sources on the screen. Note, this summary does an excellent job at highlighting a possible reason that many find it attractive to reject this philosophical understanding, which is that the privation theory places the responsibility for evil on mankind, not some mysterious outside force. Let's move on. Of course, the unfortunate byproduct of this philosophical foundation is that it presupposes the existence of objective good. Although, if you don't believe in objective good, that means it's not possible for there to be an objective absence of good, which means good and evil are whatever you define them to be, which means there is no good and evil, which means you can do literally whatever you want and no one has the moral right to stop you. So I guess that's nice for you. For the rest of us living in the real world, understanding and then accepting that evil is something that is definable is a critical element in appreciating and then also in writing good stories. Just as heroism and heroes can't be examined or written well without understanding morality, villainy and villains can't be examined without understanding evil. Now here's the thing. Modern 21st century society, especially 21st century literature and philosophical thought, is largely the result of a bunch of random friendships.
It's all just so pretend, though.
Yeah.
It's all so pretend because, like, how many of these people that will tell you that evil doesn't exist as a concept would be willing to admit that Hitler was a complicated figure and he might have had a rough upbringing?
They're incapable of holding to their own, like holding perfectly to their own critiques and stuff. Yeah.
Guys yelling at each other in between trips to the opium den and absinthe vendors at their mistress's apartment. In case it's not obvious, I'm making a joke. My point is that our modern understanding of good and evil is not this enlightened thing that resulted from magnificent minds. Mostly it's garbage intended to provide.
But this is one of the things is like all the way back at the beginning, when one of the first things we ever did was talk about the debate between the Midnight Mormons and the RFM. And we said the Midnight Mormons had a point against RFM when all the ex-Mormons think that RFM just destroyed the Midnight Mormons, just talking about truth claims. But the reason we gave points to the Midnight Mormons is it was obvious that you can't just deconstruct people down to nowhere and nothing fills in like the gap. But all of this stuff is what ends up filling in the gap for everybody almost everywhere all the time. And you got Delin and RFM and these guys, and they're just kind of like, it just seems like they're unaware of this world that's there to fill things. I mean, I said the quote from Cormac McCarthy in the thing of like, when the lamb is crying, it cries, and sometimes comes the mother and sometimes comes the wolf. And it's just so funny because, like, to me, I was leaving ex-Mormonism after I found out about the South Park thing, and then I was dragged into literary graduate school, which was all this, and that seemed like genuinely like that same thing. Like, you were left out, you were lost, like when the lamb's lost out in the thing, and it's like, well, where do I go? Here comes the wolf. Like, this postmodern graduate school was so much more full of shit about the word to know than Mormonism was, that I can't even start to explain it. And so I guess it's like one of the things that we start panicking about is like, is Mormonism to us like really plausible? No, but it's way better than this shit.
That's pretty much it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what pragmatism is entirely, but that's where that's how I basically define pragmatism.
I'll leave it at that with you.
I think you guys pretty much got it better than the other guys. And I don't know. I remember like the worst responses I ever got from people when I would bring up criticisms of the Mormon church in any way. They were always missionary companions who I'd be like, I don't know, the mission president keeps telling us not to ask why, because Adam didn't ask why when Peter asked him why he was sacrificing a lamb. And he's like, oh, the father of all of us didn't ask why, so why would you guys need to ask why? And it's like, well, first off, jackass, you just asked why, but whatever. And I would tell my companion, I'd be like, but like Joseph Smith asked why, and that was the whole reason that this religion is here. He'd kind of get nervous and be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's something we should be thinking of. Really, we should focus on like gospel stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that that's your response. But like the vitriol I got this as soon as I started asking ex-Mormonism to like better define the LGBTQ suicide epidemic in Utah. Like, all right, we cover all our bases. I bring this up all the time, but they jump down my throat and say this is not something we can question. Gay youths are committing suicide, and Mormonism is to blame, and we know that. Like, that's just our gospel. Like, okay, you guys are being in this instance a little more culty.
For sure. Beyond that, as we keep listening to this, because I mean, I think it's such a perfect question of like, what is a villain or what's the bad guy? You know, that really is the postmodern question. Like, that's all of it. You know, it's all of it right here. But she's examining it in stories. But who are bad guys? Who's to say who are bad guys? You know, but what's so funny about it is I think if you watch some people who break down larger things, like I was talking about this video, The Dial of Destiny, Indiana Jones, Despot of Antrim. This guy's got a good channel. But if you listen to that whole entire thing, I didn't even watch the movie, but I know he's on part of the stuff. He's got a lot of different breakdowns. But listen to it and try to ask yourself, like, how did these writers not know that they wrote a villain with this new gal coming in? Like, the girl who's supposed to replace Indiana Jones, they make what would have been traditionally a villain out of her and think it's the hero. Because the guy really does point out how all of the other ones in Indiana Jones, he's going after these artifacts. Those artifacts have real powers, real stories, real things behind them. And the lesson almost always learned is to not get the artifact.
Don't use the power.
Don't use the power and don't get the artifact. And she's like the opposite. She's like, get the ring, use the ring, profit off the ring, you know? And you're like, how did you guys, through your Marxism, which is not supposed to care about money,
Oh, it's just like it's exactly like how
turn it upside down that hard.
It's exactly how I was explaining that Shadow of War game we were talking about earlier with Shalob that looks like a porn star. Like, that wasn't even the worst part. I think the worst part, they do a couple of bad things in there. Like, they try to explain to you that Isildur was one of the ring wraiths, which is stupid. But the worst thing that they did was that your character is infused with, I don't know how familiar you are with Lord of the Rings, but he's infused with the spirit of Celebrimbor. And Celebrimbor is the original forager of a lot of the rings of power. And in this, his spirit helps you to forge a new One Ring. And it's just like the other One Ring, except that it doesn't have all the bad stuff with it. It's got all the power, but it's just like, it's not going to corrupt you. You're still going to be a good guy if you
They
use
just
it.
can't, like, the past 10 years or longer of writing out of Hollywood has been shit upside down fan fiction from idiots who are morally upside down from postmodern horseshit. And this part of the problem is that really does have larger implications on our society, because like just right now everybody's asking what the hell's going on with the left. You guys got great big bleeding hearts. Everybody's upset that you blew up a boat of drug traffickers today and stuff like that. And you sent that meme of like, oh, I'll give you for coming after my heckin' drug traffickers. And that like we talked about the Obrego Garcia dude, who's he trafficked women, he killed a mom, he beat his wife, and they're just bleeding the hearts for it and stuff like that. But those are just like a couple examples, but I'm going to keep going because her storytelling examples are really good.
Society with the greatest level of permissiveness reasonably allowable. Some of it is actually kind of interesting. Most of it is garbage. We're getting off topic. What I'm saying is that postmodernism has some interesting ideas, like I said, but what we have left now is an insane soup. It's literally impossible to form any kind of solid opinion about anything objective within postmodern thought. No matter how much you read, it seems to come down to the idea that man decides for himself both what is real and what is right. Sure, I'm oversimplifying, but challenge any postmodernist to prove that wrong. So what does all this postmodern business mean for villains and villainy? Put simply, the postmodern understanding of evil as such is that it doesn't exist. And I don't mean that in the classical sense that evil is merely an absence of good. I mean, it doesn't exist in that it can't be defined. I mean that to postmodern literary theorists, which is everybody in every English lit department, in every publishing house, in every literary agency, the concept of evil...
Do you hear that, John Dolan? John Dolan, it's everybody. These guys keep appealing to how hardcore scientists, truthy. I've heard Kobe and RFM do it. Like, you guys are, I don't know like what planet you're from. I don't know why you guys don't know the entirety of the humanities departments, and pushing into all of the departments are all already turned and long turned, like to the point of like, you say Mormons are 20 years behind. You guys are 20 years behind. That the problem with epistemology in the world is at the academy.
It's I don't know. I always use this, and maybe I'm off base here, but I've always kind of said that in reality, not in fiction, but like in reality, we are, and this kind of goes along with Christian theology, basically. Maybe humans are incapable of defining what it is to be an evil human, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're very capable of defining an evil action. So like you could show me, like, I don't know, you could show me a very sympathetic portrayal of a man who cheated on his wife, right? And you tell me, like, it's difficult to say if he was an evil man. He did this stuff that seems questionable, but like there's all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, it actually doesn't, it's very not difficult for me to say that whether or not he's an evil man, I don't know, but I know that cheating on his wife was evil. It feels pretty obvious. He committed an evil action, and it sort of comes into Christian theology where they say that like evil is up for God to define, but also it kind of does feel like sometimes there's a moment where you need to be able to call a person evil, like when they commit enough evil actions. And it's sort of like with that whole definition of what constitutes porn. I don't know how to define it, but I know what it is when I see it. And that's something that you could probably say about evil. Like, given all these rules, these storytelling rules that she's talking about, it would be difficult to call Hitler an evil man. But in reality, it's not actually that difficult to call him an evil man. Like, I don't know exactly what defines it, but I know what it is when I see it. And, slaughtering 6 million Jews it probably constitutes you as an evil man. And I need to treat you as an evil man. And there's a great moment in season 1 of Fargo where it was Colin Hanks' character goes to Billy Bob Thornton's character at the very end, and he kills him in the middle of his speech. And I was always like, oh yeah, you recognized him as an evil man. and you might not have been able to find why he's evil. You might have been able to hear a very sympathetic backstory as to why he's this way, but you know that he's evil, and you know that the evil needs to be put down.
Yeah, I just finished Huck Finn this week for the first time ever. I'd never gotten all the way through it, and that book is now banned. Like these guys keep talking about, look for who's banning books and who's burning books and that sort of stuff. That book drops the N-word more than any rap song in this world, and the whole thing. He does not start out a good. Most of the people around him do not start out good and right and already perfect about slavery, so they can be the good guys. They have to slowly go and learn it. And I watched this TikTok video. There's a couple of good TikTok videos, but this is in line with that. This girl says, "Look, and we're using women to make our points. They're making good points. All the women tonight. It's not just the dudes. How movies should talk to." According to TikTok.
Hi, just in case you were confused, I'm the villain, which means that sometimes bad things, but that doesn't mean the person who wrote me thinks those bad things are okay, though. You're about to engage in something called satire, which means that there may be references to real-life troubling events repackaged within a fictional setting for the purpose of comedy or commentary. Is that okay with you? Remember, I'm playing a character, not actually being myself. Just in case you forgot. Don't worry, no one who contributed to this piece of media in any way has ever done anything wrong in their entire life. If even one of them did, I guess that would mean that all of this work completely loses its value, and anyone who engages with it is a complete monster. Gee, I hope that doesn't happen. This mindset will not have any negative effects on art or politics at all.
Does it seem maybe like I don't know, like, to very oversimplify it, does it seem like maybe the more right-leaning people, they can view you as a nuanced and complicated person in reality, and then maybe the hyper lefties can view you as a nuanced complicated person in fiction? Because like I had this conversation with Morgan. I've got this phrase that I always use, and it was Dostoevsky that really kind of turned me onto this. I remember growing up thinking all my heroes were awesome, and it was really like learning a lot about Joseph Smith and his actions that I was like, ah, shit, your heroes are all bastards. And then I got really into Dostoevsky and find out some of the shit that he pulled. Like, I mean, he got addicted to gambling and he gambled away his wife's engagement ring.
Ooh.
And I can say that's an evil action. But it's almost like I view him as this complex, nuanced figure in reality. And I can say that, like, all right, at one point in life, you have heroes. And then at one point in life, you learn a little bit more and you learn that all your heroes are bastards. And then hopefully you learn a little bit more and you find out that only bastards can be heroes because we're all bastards in some way. And I feel like I can get that out of the Mormons. I feel like I could get that maybe out of some of the people, like in regards to Brigham Young or Joseph Smith. I mean, with the whole advent of cancel culture and shit like that, it's very difficult to get that out of any lefty in regards to somebody who had just like not even as something as shitty as gambling away your wife's ring, but just something as shitty as like singing the N-word in a Kanye song when you were in high school and now you just forever condemned. Yeah. But they still want all the nuance that they lack in reality, they want in fiction.
Yeah, so she gets into this, and maybe I'll spoil it because I don't know that we'll get to all of it, but I think it's towards the end. But she talks about, oh, well, if somebody's a bad person, you can save them in this world. There's one way to do it. Make them a victim for a minute, you know. And that's the only way you can save him for like a lefty audience. Like, oh, this woman's a Republican. She's a Republican president. Oh, she's just the worst. But wait a minute, she was once raped by her. Oh gosh, I guess she can be a good person too. Like, no, there's no moral choice in any of that. Like, all of it's upside down. Like, what makes them good is action and taking action and making decisions and agency and that sorts of stuff. But you talked about sometimes in certain situations, the hero that needs to be called has to be a type of monster, right? And that's some of Victor Davis Hanson's writings on his book, because he draws on classicism and all that sort of stuff. He calls Patton American Ajax and calls Trump kind of like Patton. And what he just talks about is these very, very, very flawed people that are probably kind of perfect tools for the thing that needed to be called into whatever they're doing, and that might be the only thing that they're really good for. You know what I mean? But that little tool worked perfectly for the thing that was supposed to be created for it. You know, and yeah, that does seem to be like some sort of a nuance that more I don't know. It does seem to be the more conservative minded people can think of, because like,
Well, I mean, and maybe it's only the people who are social underdogs that can view life that way, because the conservatives are now becoming they're no longer really the social underdogs, and there's like this weird transition period. Because I remember in like being very young in school, and my history teacher, he was talking about presidents, and he got on Bill Clinton, and he went off on this rant about how Bill Clinton should have been impeached because he cheated on his wife. Any man that can cheat on his wife can't be trusted to run a country or whatever. And in my head, I was pretty young, so I didn't have the words to say it. But in my mind, I was like, I know you're not supposed to be telling me this. Like, I know you're supposed to just be telling me the facts. And also, I don't know, maybe he could be a bad husband and a good leader. I'm not even saying that Bill Clinton was. I mean, there's some things that he did well, but
I actually think, like, because one of my arguments for people like, oh, Trump's so bad, like, Trump's pretty close to Clinton, like in a lot of ways, and Clinton did some good stuff.
Well, and
but he did also some rough stuff too. Like
one of my friends, one of my friends told me that like it seems like the worst presidents are the ones that you would most like to have as a neighbor. You'd probably want to have Jimmy Carter or George W. Bush,
yes, but think about
or Barack Obama as a neighbor.
Razorfist had a great rant on Jimmy Carter this week, because he's just like, Jimmy Carter's just so great, but he's like talking about, but his niceness let in Jim Jones. Like did you nice to all the Jim Jonesies and all that sorts of stuff. Like that's what your niceness can bring into your, situation there.
I have this rant all the time. Anytime people are talking about, I don't know, niceness is almost the last defense of a man. And as soon as you strip it down to that as the only defense, you can tell you're talking about a really pathetic man. We talk about this at work all the time. If ever there's a guy with irredeemable qualities, that like he doesn't add anything, and it's not because he's stupid, it's because he's an asshole, and he doesn't want to work, and he tries to get out of work, and he actively tries to sabotage other people or shit like that. There's always a couple people in the room, if you're talking about that, to be like, but he's a really nice guy. And it doesn't fucking mean anything. What do you mean? Like, he's never going to call you a fag? Is that what it means to be nice? Like, he's not going to actively go out of his way to just be like an unobstructed dick to you?
Yeah.
That means bullshit.
I don't know if I'll get that, but like one of the things she brings up in here is the Patriot. Like Mel Gibson's The Patriot, and it talks about like, well, he's just trying to be nice and go along to get along, and doesn't want to bring up like his monsters and his demons of the past and all that sort of stuff. Well, just be nice, just go along, just be proper. Gets his son killed, and then later he feels ashamed, and he's like, does he feel ashamed about like his sins or something? He feels ashamed that he didn't act before he got his son killed.
Yep.
And
for lack of a better term, is a social construct subject to the whims of every individual person. They'll tell you that, like morality, evil is what society in a given time has decided is unacceptable. That's it. Therefore, examining evil in storytelling will tell the stuffy.
Well, it's all contingent on like what the society's current thing is just telling you. Well, who's to say? Who's to say? Who's to say?
English lit majors, what ails society? If you ever want to check and see if an English lit major is worth your time and money, you can go online and read the dissertations of lit majors from colleges all across.
This is the thing that I've talked about. I've told you guys before. Like James Lindsay's read all the big names of postmodernism, and I've gotten like around to a lot of them. But when I was in school, I read all of the undergrads' papers because I was going to go try to emulate them or figure out how to write whatever the crap they were writing here. And so I read a ton of undergraduate papers, Foucauldian undergraduate papers.
America, which is, something I did because I'm that kind of crazy. And you see this pervading line of thought running through these papers. I was searching mainly for theses on the subject of villainy, but this is all I found. Paper after paper about how villainy is a social construct and what specifically various iterations of villainy say about society.
Yeah, and you get it all day. Like, this is what blew my mind. I've said it a million times, but it blew my mind. I'm like, this crap will never fly with the soccer moms I grew up with. And then I started seeing all the soccer moms I grew up with, who's to say? What's to say? On Facebook, just their little theses on things.
I'm very excited for the 2035 adaptation of Lord of the Rings, where you find out that Sauron was sexually abused as a kid. He was actually misunderstood. And Frodo actually uses the ring to convert him into goodness.
It's actually kind of well, no, because you didn't go far enough, man. Because if you watch that Antrim thing, and he does a very good breakdown of Star Wars, and we don't get angry enough that Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Indiana Jones got turned into such sad sacks of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the end of stuff. So it can't just be that Sauron's okay and Frodo's gonna. No, Frodo's got to be a sad sack of shit. Like that.
Yeah, I know. I think Indiana Jones might have been the worst of those three, and it's probably because he's the most recent. But I'm thinking Han Solo. I remember watching that movie and being annoyed. I'm like, wait a minute, they just regressed his entire character arc. That's annoying.
They regressed it and made him pathetic, worthless, just falling apart, fade away, shitty. All because they need to march in the new identity hero.
And then you get Luke, and Luke is, just let everyone die because I killed my nephew because I had a dream he was a bad guy.
Well, I'm nihilist Luke. Jake.
And then you get Han, and then you get Indiana Jones, and it was every single character arc for the last 3, even 4 movies.
Just think of all their kids, their sons are dead. They let their sons die. Their sons turn against them. Their sons turn into emo kids and whatever. I guess Indiana Jones' kid just died in a war or something like that. But it's it's all in there. All of this is in there. All the messaging isn't unintentional,
A foundational presupposition at play here. According to modern literary thinking and philosophical thinking, evil itself is not a thing that can occur. This is just a given to a modern lit major. Evil can't be.
Well, I've said it 100 times. Watch the Karate Kid reboot, and it's a great reboot, and it has all the diversity in the world in it. And what did they just have to do? Just honor the old guys a little bit, you know what I mean? And still figure out that there's still some badness out there.
Well, they do, and they also... Okay, so Johnny Lawrence is a character that it's actually pretty easy to portray as a sympathetic, misunderstood villain because...
Yeah, it's kind of this stuff done
because
right.
They already did it. They already did it in the movie. Yeah. He doesn't want to sweep the leg. And and he's pressured into it, and the second he sweeps the leg, he starts begging for Johnny's forgiveness.
Yeah, the hints are there and all that stuff.
And so then you flash forward, and it doesn't make Daniel LaRusso just an objective villain,
he's got his own continued arc. Everybody's learning and continuing morally, and got reasons and not all good.
Well, and Johnny Lawrence is
but then they still have a big bad. They still have bad people that they have to fight. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the whole thing. I only watched. I think I finished the first season and started the second, and it was when Johnny's old sensei comes back. Yeah. And I feel again, haven't watched it, but I feel like he's just gonna be bad all the way through.
No, he goes on an arc too, but he's there's different levels of arc because he doesn't go on a full superhero journey. It's a harder arc, but it's a little bit more like Darth Vader's arc. You know what I mean? It takes till the last minute, and still even at the last minute, he still wasn't the greatest guy, but he did a little bit of some redeeming stuff.
Well, it was cool because it was evident through the whole arc of the whole Johnny's arc of the first season. It's him kind of realizing that, all right, maybe the Cobra Kais weren't all bad, but I'm starting to realize that they were some bad. And that final fight in the first season was awesome.
Yeah,
because his student kicks the shit out of his son by kind of cheating or kind of being shitty, and he's like, "Oh, I won, but I'm actually very troubled with it."
Well, I mean, the whole thing's got like that dichotomy in it too, that the Cobra Kai's all attack and the LaRusso side's all defense. And
Yeah.
then both of them have to kind of go learning from each other that no, sometimes there's got to be attack and sometimes there's got to be defense, you know. But
Finds because good doesn't exist, philosophically speaking. So you see, to the modern writer, there is no good and there is no evil. Therefore, all stories do is tell us what society thinks at a given time. Therefore, anything that is marked villain by society and put in the antagonist column in a story is currently the victim of some kind of social stigma. You see this a lot with postmodern examinations of old stories like Beowulf, where the monster interpreted to be some kind of victim. You also see this with modern interpretations of fairy tales, where people decide that all these stories mean is that women were being vilified, and that's why the evil stepmother is so often the villain. Besides being tediously...
one of the weirdest ones that I cannot believe they tried to do is I cannot believe they tried to rescue Cruella. Like I cannot believe they did that. Like, she wants skin puppies for a dress. We can save her.
Did you watch the movie?
Yeah, I did.
God, it was okay. First off, it was basically not even the same character.
Yeah. That's one of the
but
ways
also
they tried to do it.
it's like at the end of it, they find out, oh fuck, we got to have a reason for her to want to skin puppies. So they have like a bunch of some adult Dalmatians literally jump up and push a person she loves off a cliff.
She was traumatized by the Dalmatian puppies.
Okay, then you can't be if that's your line.
She wants
of
a
thinking,
dress of them.
if that's your line of thinking, you can't be mad at a villain who wants to exterminate black people because somebody who loves was killed by an individual black person.
Yeah. But also she's poor, and if somebody grows up poor, like, you know,
absurd.
They're Latin. They can't do
also find this entire approach to literature embarrassingly arrogant. So, according to writers these days, the only modern socially appropriate way to approach the villain is to apply one or more of the following postmodern principles of morality. First, you can make the villain sympathetic because, you know, he's not actually a villain. He is just the victim of current year social constructs. Or you can make him a symbol for modern acceptable social evil, whatever that is. I think currently it's fascism, but I haven't checked in a couple hours, so it might be something else now. In other words, the villain isn't a villain. He's either a victim of social misconceptions or his past or the patriarchy or whatever. Or he's not so much a villain as he is a stand-in for the writer's idea of what is wrong with our society right now. There's a reason so many of the biggest popular productions these days feature fascism or the patriarchy or whatever happens to be big and trending on social media as the big bad guy. It's worth noting, from time to time, there's also a third option, the one in which the villain, you know, was right all along and he just went about it the wrong way. Done right, this is the only variation on modern villainy that's even somewhat tolerable. It's just basically never done right. Before we get into examples, I want to take a moment to talk about the problem with the overemphasis on sympathetic villains. We'll discuss this a little more when we look at examples, but this is one of those good things, bad things situations. The idea with humanizing or making your villain sympathetic is that it makes the character more interesting. In the cases of characters who are not, you know, Lucifer as Morningstar or Morgoth, in other words, characters who are people too, it also lends believable realism to the story. This is all true. But the problem comes when the writer tries to locate the specific ways in which the villain ought to be humanized. Take this article, for example. This details some pretty good tips for constructing interesting villains. I particularly want to highlight this quote, however. The best villains are the ones who are trying to do good, not the blow everything up type. Your bad guy can't go around kicking puppies all day. He shouldn't be pure evil all the time. Show him tucking his daughter into bed. Show her helping an old lady across the street. Show him jumping in front of a runaway horse to keep it from trampling some beggars. Just like your hero needs to be flawed and not perfect all the time, your villain should show some light in the midst of all their darkness. Now, this isn't wrong per se. It is more interesting and often more realistic.
Who do you think is the most popular villain of the last 60 years?
Sauron or Joker?
I was gonna say Joker.
Yeah.
I think Joker's and he has zero redeeming qualities, except for in some stupid ass comics that you'll see. Where
One of the best things
he's
about
like,
Nolan.
I'm homicidal, but at least I'm not racist.
One of the best things about Nolan's Heath Ledger's one is his untrustworthy narratives. You know what I mean? He'd give you all these sob stories. I mean, that's killer, because that is really kind of like digging into the postmodern villain, because he's trying to make himself sympathetic, and then after a minute you notice that he tells different varying versions and he's lying. You know, that's
Ryan Wimmer says Darth Vader. He might.
Oh, Vader. Yeah, you win.
But then there's also Voldemort.
But Vader
isn't
Vader
redeemed.
nowadays would have to be a stand-in for Trump and Hitler, and he couldn't be redeemable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the Star Wars story was great because, I'd say the original trilogy of Star Wars was great. It's a great show of retconning, like really well, because retcons are usually sort of poo-pooed, and rightfully so. They're usually annoying as fuck. Like, actually, it turns out this guy that we said was a nobody was the son of the sun god, and now he's all powerful or some gay
They
shit
pull it
like
off
that.
all right. Like,
But the
Yeah,
retcons in the original trilogy were pretty good because you could. Probably the most glaring one was Darth Vader. Like, you go back to the first movie where it wasn't planned for Darth Vader to be Luke's dad, and
yeah, you could tell
Obi-Wan
that they were
tells
planning
him,
on Leia and Luke being maybe lovers too.
yeah, and Obi-Wan tells Luke, Darth Vader killed your father, and you're like, that's maybe the most glaring one, but that's actually pretty well kind of summed up with, no, your dad died when he became
Yeah.
Darth Vader. Like,
Yeah.
I get that in sort of like a weird spiritual sense or whatever. It's actually really well retconned, and they put in the Emperor, because in the first movie, Darth Vader was just evil, and then you find out there's the Emperor, and the Emperor is never redeemed, not even in the shitty Disney sequel. Like, he's
One of his clones can be a better person.
Oh, Christ.
Maybe one of his clones will be.
I'm sure there's an extended universe of that. Like, what if Palpatine was a good guy? God, I hate what ifs.
Yeah, let me go check one TikTok real quick. Like, you can find some nuance in people. Here's one.
Everyone who voted for Donald Trump sucks, except for my mom and dad. They're different from the rest of the Trump voters, because they're my mom and dad.
That's pretty funny.
Show that there is still some good there that's very much in keeping with our view of evil as an absence of good. 99.99% of the time, there will still be some good remaining. But it's for examples here that I want to point out. When a character who is a villain abandons goodness as he gradually comes to embrace, for lack of a better term, the dark path, he will, in a sense, pick and choose what good remains. And the goodness that he chooses to hang on to will be in keeping with his character. A narcissist who is only out for his own benefit might still experience enough of a fatherly bond to tuck his daughter into bed at night, sure, but he's unlikely to be moved to action by the sight of some beggars in danger. A lot of unrealistic, sympathetic villains stem from this problem. The writer started out with the best of intentions, but wasn't sure where specifically the villain's goodness still remained. Most often, this is due merely to the fact that most people see villainy as a social construct. So to those writers, goodness and badness are pretty random and open to subjective interpretation. So they just randomly pick good traits that they think are most likely to tug at the emotions of the audience. The traits are not usually consistent with the person's character. So it creates contradictions that don't ring true. This kind of thing is done by writers to create uncomfortable contradictions that would supposedly be compelling to the audience. But in the end, it's just contradictory. But aside from issues of bad writing like that, you probably don't really need me to tell you that most modern writers and sympathetic villains have just become a synonym for the real hero of the story, which again goes back to a rejection of the concept of good and evil. In a postmodern literary society such as our own, we can no longer just, engage with the story. It all has to be meta. The story isn't what's important. What's important is the story's meditation on, or examination of, or deconstruction of some aspect of society. This isn't a villain. It's what evil, vicious society has decided unjustly is villainous. Objective reality no longer exists.
Based.
Your truth and my truth and social constructs. If you think such a world can ever create a meaningful story, much less a villain, you're in for a long, rude awakening. In the same way that...
And that's all we've been living in.
I know. I'm very excited to see Greta Gerwig's version of what is it? The Narnia, where Meryl Streep is playing Aslan.
Oh, good.
I'm very excited to see how Aslan is a little bit of an asshole, even though he's just a one-to-one comparison of Jesus Christ, and how the Ice Queen was actually kind of right in some ways.
They can't beat it. Like, they can't beat that writing thing. And then if you go watch that Antrim dude kind of break down those things, you see how it's almost like that was Robert Conquest Laws. Like, imagine this company's run by its own enemies. It's almost like, imagine these movies are being written by the movie's enemies. Like, and then when you see the postmodern problem in it, you really kind of just go like, these guys can't not destroy it like this. They cannot invert and do it all upside down. I'm getting kind of close to running into time, and I gotta take a putt. But I also wanted to mention that I watched the final episode of Sex in the City this week. I've watched the whole entire thing of Sex in the City from when I was young. Well, not right now, but from when I was young. I just kept up on all the years. I'd hate watch like each of the episodes. When I was young, I first watched it because I was a teenager when it first came out, and we watched it like, what is a show talking about sex all differently like this? Like, oh, it's just a brand new world where adult women are as sexually active as males. Oh my gosh, it's such a thing. And then she goes through this whole arc of going and getting married. And then they rebooted like the series. She gets married to her dream man. They reboot the series. They kill that guy off. She tries to go for one of the guys that everybody always said she should have stayed with. And that doesn't work out again. And then the whole thing just comes to an ending. Literally the last scene. And if you remember, we brought up that the writer of the series had come out and said, she shouldn't have lived that lifestyle. She shouldn't have just tried to save her eggs. Those failed. She tried to freeze eggs and it failed, and she's just left alone and she's lonely.
Why would you try to freeze eggs? Why?
Well, I don't know.
Why would you try to? Are you saying you feel some pull toward having kids?
And the actual writer, because I don't think the actual writer was the writer of the series. She left, but she had been left in a final thing of saying like, I'm alone and lonely and this sucks. And she wrote about that. She spoke about it openly. But that series ends. I didn't even realize it is ending. It got canceled, which I think metaphorically is kind of part of like the whole thing that happened there. You watch the whole series, it falls apart. All the friends fall apart. Kim Cattrall, when the ladies left the show, all this sorts of stuff. But the final scene is just her walking and talking with her friend and saying like, you know what? I realized I'm going to be alone, and I'm just a person who's meant to be alone, and I'm alone. And then the final like after scene is like, I've decided to be alone and fabulous. And her friend just goes, "You're amazing," and that's the end of the series. And I didn't even realize it was the end of the series. I thought it was just like, okay, well, she's going to meet some guy and have some happy. No, that was the end of the whole damn series. And I thought it was really kind of interesting because like one of the things I saw on TikTok this week.
Was that Sarah Jessica Parker's character?
That's Sarah Jessica Parker. And everybody's talking about how Howard Stern and Sarah Jessica Parker are kind of the same thing. Like this series was the king of the series that people said changed women's minds about how they were going to go out and live and do. Like it's the king of it. It is the king of the 90s, 2000s woman who's going to be just as sexual as men and go out and find herself and do that whole sort of thing. And this farts off, like her character farts off. The series got canceled in a fart off. The whole thing farted off in such a fart off. And everybody was talking about Howard Stern, and Howard Stern just like going down to like less than 100,000 viewers after being like a 30 million viewer guy and just farting off. And all of that stuff that was like I pulled up the Ozymandias from Breaking Bad, the Ozymandias poem that said, you know, here's my kingdom. And it's just got like the face of the Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley, the wife Frankenstein, her husband, wrote this poem that was the end of Ozymandias. But if you ever watch that show, there's scenes where Gus and where Walt's faces are in the ground, just like this picture when they're at the end of the rain and that sorts of stuff. And it has this poem over here. The hand that mocked the heart of the fed, on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, king of kings. Look on my words, ye mighty and despair. Nothing besides remains around the decay of the colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. And it's talking about how vast it is, but it's next to this picture of just a face left, just farted off into like oblivion, like type of stuff. And it feels like, so not only were we talking about how, you know, the left, they say like the left or Colbert is like farting off, right? And one of the things I noticed on TikTok is all these young lefties, you know how like young righties might actually defend, they're shitting on them just as much. Like I'm like, well, you guys love Stern and you guys love Colbert. No, they're all just like those rich bastards who are just rich and stupid. Fuck them. You know, like that's what all the TikTok lefties are just like. They got no love. Like they tried to pander to them in every way and give it. No, they don't care. They let them die. Those rich people, we hate them. You know, and I saw a million just a different little TikTok from like the left on that saying, and it's just like such a huge metaphorical thing of like this thing that just had grasped all of society of this new modern, postmodern way of living and doing deracinated, live yourself, live your truth lifestyle is just pooping and farting off, you know. And
I actually I recently started rewatching Breaking Bad for like, I don't know, the 6th time or something like that. And I've thought this every single time. You know who gets too much hate in Breaking Bad?
The wife.
Yeah, Skylar.
Mhm.
And I've thought this since like the first time I watched, and every single subsequent time I've watched it, I've been like, man, people talk about what a piece of shit she was. Hold on a sec, okay? She's in her late 30s. Her husband's 50, diagnosed with cancer. She finds out she has a surprise baby. They're already struggling for money. Her husband's too much of a fucking pompous ass to accept a job from his friend that would pay for his cancer stuff. And then when he doesn't accept the job, his friend just begs him to let him pay for it, like his rich friend. And then he doesn't accept that either. And instead he decides to start dealing meth and is gone at all hours of the night dealing meth. And she gets mad at him for it. and that bitch, she cheated on him. Like, she was pretty fucking checked out by then. Like, Walt wasn't. It's about Breaking Bad. Like, this is all about his flaws. He's a fucking fantastic character. He's not a fantastic person.
Speaking of which, I mean, I've been watching Malcolm in the Middle, and so like I'm almost done with Malcolm in the Middle, but it's so great to like watch him like have the arc of like the greatest guy in the world show on that one. Malcolm in the Middle is great. It's great all the way through. I thought it kind of fell off at the end.
It does fall off at the end.
I think it's still good. I'm only halfway through season 7, but
is that the last season?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't like season 7 because my favorite character arc of the whole thing was Francis, and they really
He's
botched
kind of
him.
not. Oh, I haven't even seen. They haven't really gotten to him, but like some of the stuff going on with Reese and that stuff. But I mean,
I feel like everybody else was good, but Francis, the way that they ended him, really made me mad.
I'm only 7 episodes into it, so it's got more than half the whole thing to go. But I'll see. But like that character is great. But then to see him go become this, but that show is so good at just showing the little subtle ways he becomes more and more of an asshole and hubristic and all that sorts of stuff. But he, dang it, what was I going to say? Hubris. Like watch that Antrim video and watch how it breaks down. Like just the hubris doesn't get punished of that Indiana Jane, and there's so much of this hubris of all of it, like the hubris of Sarah Jessica Parker, Walter White, Colbert, all of them. It is all just farting off, and so much of it comes from because we all tried to get galaxy brained about. Who's to say what is even when everybody knows all along? Colbert is supposedly one of the biggest honkies ever of Lord of the Rings. How did that happen to that guy? You know what I mean? Like, how can you be that big of a honky of Lord of the Rings and be a George R.R. Martin postmodernist? And if, like, look up as people talk about how George R.R. Martin can't finish his series and never will finish any of his series, because they could only fart off, and because that's what postmodern does. You cannot end a postmodern series. That's
that's one of the other parts that sucks ass about Shadow of War, is that it gives Sauron a face. Like, you actually see him in his weird elf form, and he's like talking about his motivations. And no, you're just evil. That's it.
They can't do it, man. Like, they can't do it. They can't rescue themselves. They can't beat this. They can't get out of it. Like, the only thing that could get them out of any of it is a complete worldview takeover to somehow like drop all this stuff. I don't even know. This gal, I like that she's getting popular and huge, and she's pointing this stuff out. And I don't know. It does feel like there's going to be like a revival of meaning and story and all that sorts of stuff. But it's still out there. It's all still out there. It's all still happening. It's all still getting deconstructed. And it feels to me like the ex-Mormon world is hardly even aware. Like, why? I mean, they've all been to college and stuff like that. Why is Dylan and he knows the name Foucault and all that stuff. Why is he so oblivious to it? You know?
Well, if you can tell a story about somebody who is considered socially, utterly villainous and irredeemable, you can still do it well, because like even like the Super Mario movie, my kids love that movie, and it's actually very well done. Bowser, you could probably see, is basically like an incel, you know, like, and not the cheeky feminist, oh, you're an incel because you don't like feminism. in like the actual incel way. Like he thinks that Peach owes him his hand in marriage and all this shit like that. But they don't go into like the childhood trauma that led him to being an incel. They don't try to redeem him. They defeat him. They defeat the bad thing in the end.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons people liked it, in addition to it actually being very well made.
Well, it's all just stories, man. It's the positive stories, and the postmodernists all say it's narratives, and we say it's narratives, and Mormons say it's narratives, and what's all working. But yeah, just the thing you'd have to advocate for is positive narratives, real heroes, real stories, real upward trajectory, growth, life, birth, futures, that sort of stuff. And it, in the end of it all, when you simplify it, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard, and it feels like atheism. We don't get to march in and say we're taking over here until we can also do that, And if we can't, we don't get to, No, stay out of the way, until you have a positive story, and make sure that you stick to the positive story and push the positive story.
So Ryan pointed out, Dylan is playing a role in what he does. He dramatizes. He dramatizes and tries to please a certain audience. He does, and I think this is the moment. It's starting to feel like the moment where he farts out like Sarah Jessica Parker that Chris was talking about, because it's like he's starting to the chickens are coming home to roost, and he's starting to kind of realize that, oh shit, this maybe isn't what I chalked it up to be.
It's on so many different levels. Like England opening itself to the world and being the nicest can only ever fart out too. I mean, it
what
really
a terrible way to go
fighting.
too.
Everything will just fart out,
Like instead of going out with a bang, you're like,
that's what it is. That's the only thing George R.R. Martin could do to end his series. He couldn't have it go out on like a high heroic note. He could only have it be I'm Luke Skywalker. I die. But nobody can ever match the glory. And the very first time I read Lord of the Rings, I was shocked nobody died. I was excited about it too, because I was like, they've all got to die, or someone's gonna. That they all got to reunite together. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I was like in too much of a postmodern world after that. But they can't write Superman because of this. They won't be able to write Superman well because of this.
Did you watch the new Superman?
No, but I will. I mean, I know that they're trying to turn it around a little bit better.
I watched it, and I don't think it's as bad as like, I don't know, like Critical Drinker Critical Drinker was actually not too harsh on it. What's his face? Nerdrotic. He was more harsh on it. I don't think it's that bad. There's only a couple scenes where like Superman has to talk no jutsu and like lecture Lex Luthor at the very end. He's like, I'm a human just like you. I'm scared when I wake up. And I put my boots on 1 foot at a time, just like everybody else. And that's actually what he said.
Oh. Man, I like the stuff that Tarantino used to say, in that Tarantino has that thing. It's actually in a movie, but he gives his Superman theory, and his whole theory is that Superman's Clark Kent is Superman doing an impression of weak, pathetic men, but actual Superman is not that impression. He's actually the complete, he's not that, and but I don't know. I'll watch that movie. I always plan on. I like James Gunn. He does, and I'm sure like side stuff is funny. He's always funny in that sorts of deal. But I don't know. It's been time for the postmodern time for a while, and it just still feels like the rest of them are just gonna like catch up and find out and figure out, and you can't start putting stuff back together until you've farted it all off.
Anyway, I apparently have a kid having a meltdown, so I'm gonna head out.
I got a pup who is also about to have a meltdown, tap dancing behind me for a walk, so I'm with you. So
all right,
thanks for chilling and hanging.
We'll see ya
later. Catch you later, everybody.